Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the reunion of Final Fantasy VII Remake podcast. I'm your host, Kai, and joining me today is my co-host, Vyzz. How are you doing, Vyzz?
Hello, Kai. Doing pretty good now. Had a headache earlier, but now it's all gone. Probably in anticipation to the podcast. Now I'm healthy again, so to speak. How about you?
What is it with you and headaches? I feel like every episode you have a headache or there's something going on.
Probably this computer
Oh, I see.
thing, because I keep working on a computer at work and at home, and
at home?
yeah,
oh my gosh,
it's for the posture, it's not good.
That makes sense. You need some blue glasses.
I have.
Oh, you do?
I'm doing so many things, but sometimes it still just tenses up everything, and then I get headaches. But it's not too bad. Maybe once a week or so. Depends. But it's all good now.
Well, that's great. I'm doing okay. Just been working a lot and, taking time to play some video games that I have not been able to play. So I've been diving into Ghost of Tsushima, Director's Cut. It's pretty awesome. So I'm really enjoying that right now. And, I just finished my hard playthrough on Remake Integrated as well. So that was incredible. And that's pretty much it. And just finding time to sit down with you to chat, about this game and the world of Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, which I'm super excited to dive into this topic with you today.
Same.
All right, everybody. So the best way to support us here is to like, sub, and share the podcast. Hop on over to our YouTube channel and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And you can subscribe to us on any of the podcast platforms that are out there because we're pretty much on all of them. All right, guys. So we are so excited because we have an incredible special guest here for today's episode. He's a Twitch streamer, the creative director for GGs.TV, which is a social network for gamers, the host of the Heck podcast, and after all that, I don't know how you find time, but he's also an incredible musician. JohnReavesLive is here with us today, so welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. Thank you so much. That's like the nicest, kind introduction ever. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
You're welcome.
But yeah, I'm really excited to be here, man. I've been listening to y'all's podcast for like a good over a year now. Y'all have had some legendary guests on, and I'm honored to be on here, man.
Thank you so much. All right, guys. So for today's episode, we'll be talking about news. So we'll be talking about the recent Final Fantasy VII, the First Soldier anniversary event, because we did get a few statements from both Nomura and Kitase about Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. We'll also be chatting about potential other projects in the Final Fantasy VII universe that were apparently in the works at Square Enix. And there was also the First Soldier crossover event with Final Fantasy VII OG that was super awesome. I think it's still ongoing. And then we did get an Ever Crisis opening trailer as well during that anniversary event. Our main discussion topics for this episode we'll be talking about the world of Final Fantasy VII Part 2, in particular the level design, handling of the city's populated areas, transitions between areas. We'll be discussing corridors versus open areas and why open worlds may not actually serve the narrative of Part 2. Differences between individual parts, vehicles, and keeping the feeling of a huge planet intact. But before we begin, so John, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe a brief history with Final Fantasy VII?
Oh, yes. There you go. Well, thank you. Well, like you said before, I am a variety streamer on Twitch. I've been doing a lot of YouTube videos as well recently, and I'm the creative director for GGs.TV. It's like a social media for gamers app website, and got a new app coming out. So I'm really busy in that, but I guess where I got started with Final Fantasy VII, way back in the day, whenever it first came out, I was a gamer growing up. I played a lot of games and stuff for sure, but it was more like I really hadn't found something that really just stood out to me. And I lived in a really small town growing up, and there was this movie rental place called Donnie's Videos, and he had one copy of Final Fantasy VII. And I just looked at the art, it looked really cool, and I'd never played another Final Fantasy game before this, and I rented it, and I think we kept it for like an entire month. It was probably like a whole mortgage payment that my parents owed for this game, and so like we ended up. I had it that entire time, but I only got to the Nibelheim flashback. So
What?
yeah, I
Wow.
know. I was like really not a great gamer at the time. I could have used some blitz tips back in the day, but yeah. So ended up finally pleading with my mom to buy the game, and I got it and played it over an entire summer, and just like
Mhm.
that game changed my life, man. Changed the way I looked at games, storytelling. I mean, everything. I could go on for days, but I remember that whole summer just playing through the entire game and just being submerged in this story. It was awesome. And I've been a fan ever since.
Great to hear. It's basically the same as us, just different backstory, but the effect is basically the same. It's changed my life as well, especially as a gamer. Because before that, I only basically played platformers and similar games. This was the first RPG. Not really an idea what I was doing. Everything was new. Why couldn't I just press a button and then Cloud would attack? But I got so much into it. Characters were cool. Story was awesome, and never looked back. And now here I am.
Yeah, yeah. And even like to music for me, in particular, like
Oh yeah,
I've written so many songs just based on the story of the game, but then also like trying to kind of mimic what they do with melodies. It's so influential, man.
it certainly is. Yeah.
Yeah, and very, very similar to my background with Final Fantasy VII as well. And I just remember being completely blown away because it was like the first rendition, I guess, of a cutscene, you know, and there was no word for it at the time. So we were just kind of talking in school and we're like, oh, it plays movies. You know what I mean? Like in the game. And people were like, what? What do you mean? And then, you know, you'd kind of explain it. But for me, it was just like visually just blew me away. Like I couldn't actually believe it was real.
Yeah, and so much emotion came from those scenes. I mean, my gosh, like obviously the Aerith scene, the cutscene from that, and the graphics that we had, that's powerful storytelling, you know?
Absolutely.
It certainly is, yes.
All right, guys. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is the news. So Final Fantasy VII did celebrate its 25th anniversary recently on January 31st. Obviously, this is for the Japanese release of the game. And we did get a new logo. So what do you guys think about the new logo? I think it's awesome. I love it. And people online were like, "Oh, Zack is gonna play a more significant role in Remake because look, he's in the logo." And the interweb was just kind of like set on fire, you know. And I'm like, guys, I just think it's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful logo. Like I don't know how much to read into it there, but I really thought it was awesome. So what do you guys think?
So, first of all, yes and no to Zack. But the thing is, there was a 10th anniversary logo with Sephiroth, Zack, and Cloud as well. However, there they were basically on the same horizontal line, like next to each other. And in this 25th anniversary logo, Sephiroth is higher than both and wraps both of them in his wing. And the wing wasn't present in the 10th anniversary one. So this is pretty interesting. More emphasis on the adult children Sephiroth. Putting both under his wing, like as if he needs both to succeed or something like that.
Here we go, Vyzz, with your magnifying glass.
But maybe it's just nothing, and just Nomura just loves the wing. I don't know.
Yeah,
could be both. We're probably looking too much into it, but it's still fun to speculate.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
I agree. I think it looks beautiful. They did a great job on it. But like you said, I'm not sure like how much I can read into it really.
Yeah, exactly.
They did a great job of telling that.
I do like that. I hope it's true. I like that idea. Absolutely. With the wing coming around, you know? But I guess, you know, we'll see.
Well, I have a next mysteries video in the works, which I'll also present in 3 parts because it's so long, probably 2 hours again or 2.5. But there will be more about Sephiroth, Zack, and Cloud. It's focused on Zack, but Sephiroth will be a little bit in there as well.
All right. So some shameless promotion here for your next video. I see.
Maybe.
I love it. I'm loving it. All right, and there was a Final Fantasy VII: The First Soldier Japanese live stream from Square Enix that was mostly focused on the First Soldier. At the end, there was a little bit of information about the future of Final Fantasy VII. I think there were people that were hoping there would be more information released about Part 2, maybe like also a more concentrated anniversary event, but for me, I didn't really see us getting anything more in depth than this because it was a Japanese only event. And, if history, is anything to go by, basically, they're not going to release, for me anyway, in my opinion, I don't think that they're going to release information about something so big as like Remake Part 2 at a Japanese only event. You know what I mean? So, but people were like, I got my clown makeup on and I'm ready. And I was right there with them. But yeah, people stayed up very late, like all hours in the morning, hoping to get something. But I just love the fact that there was an event, and they did kind of give us a little tidbit of information, which we're going to talk about right now, which was on the Final Fantasy VII Remake Twitter account. There were 2 statements from Nomura and Kitase. I think actually Nomura had said at the end that there were more new Final Fantasy VII projects that were started that they're kind of working on. So keep basically waiting and hoping because there's other things waiting in the wings. Look, the wing. Oh,
yeah,
what?
I just thought the same.
What? Oh my god, that's so meta. Wow. Nomura is a genius. But yeah, we're kind of going to speculate what these other projects possibly are in a little bit here. And then I think Kitase did say that hopefully he wants fans to be excited because hopefully in the next 12 months, they want to share some information, I think about Part 2 is what he had said, that they're going to show it hopefully in 2022.
I can't wait, man.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot. So what do you guys think, Vyzz? What do you think about seeing a little bit of Part 2 in 2022, like this year?
Well, it's something I expected or still am expecting. I hope I'm right, and I hope they don't push anything to the next year, which could be theoretically possible, but yeah. I really hope so. I hope that they manage to get something out maybe in November, December or something, maybe even earlier, though I doubt it. TGS, no, this is Japanese only, probably not. So, yeah, we'll just have to see. It's all in flux. And since Final Fantasy XVI has also been pushed back half a year, as we talked on the last episode, it's around the end of the year. That's my guess.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah, I love that he covered himself because he said there will be more information this year if we can.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is like covering them just in case, they can't show something. It's like, hey, look, I said if we can, so it's not. But yeah, definitely. I think we're going to see hopefully something by the end of the year. I think that we'll see something probably in December because I think they're going to show something probably when we get Ever Crisis or when it's close to when Ever Crisis is going to be released. I think they might show us like a teaser or something. What do you think, John? Like, do you think, we're going to see this in December, or what were you thinking?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, by the end of the year, we should hopefully have a trailer. I'm hoping for a full-blown trailer by the end of the year, just because, Final Fantasy 16, obviously, they didn't want to overshadow it with Part 2. But, so I think once if they can get that released this year, then that will definitely free up some promotion for Remake Part 2. But I will say, though, going back to the 25th anniversary event, I never looked at it from the perspective that you just said, like, since it was just literally a JP stream, to probably not give us anything there. And I was like, why would they have missed such a golden opportunity to at least keep, push the conversation, just even nudge it a little bit.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I never thought about it like that. And that really, it wasn't as big of a stage for the rest of the world as it probably was for the Final Fantasy VII community, so I don't know. I guess it probably wasn't the grand stage to really give us that information we were so desperately wanting in our Ronald McDonald outfits.
Well, I appreciate the fact that we even got, the fact that they said that we're probably going to see it this year, which
Yeah.
was surprising to me. And that was the most exciting thing for me. I was like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
But for Final Fantasy 16, I think, me and Vyzz, we've discussed on the last episode, probably seeing it this summer with hopefully an August release. Like, I think we're probably going to see it at E3 this year, and then we'll probably get it released in August. And then that leaves, like, pretty substantial amount of time between that and getting Ever Crisis, which is still slated for 2022. We haven't barely got any information about that. And then showing something, like I said, at Ever Crisis event or some kind of teaser. I hope for a full length trailer as well. But at this point, I just want like something. I want a little nibble, like I want a little.
Yeah. And, I was thinking about this too. When was it before Remake's release that we knew the parameters of Remake? Because I remember my brother in particular being like, I can't believe they're only going to Midgar. And the whole game was only going to be in Midgar. So how long before Remake was, even the trailer? I'm pretty sure we had that before the trailer, correct? We had that information?
I think they took quite a while to release the specific information that it will be only Midgar. I think this happened pretty late in their promotion because...
Okay.
Yeah, pretty sure. I think it was around the end of 2019 at the Game Awards show where they performed an interview with Kitase and Neil Pabon. I think both said, it's Midgar only. Because by then, all the trailers only contained Midgar segments, and we were all wondering, well, are they really only going to show us what we get, or are they just going to hold back more information, more footage from outside of Midgar? And I've since John, you probably you might have seen my 2017 video about how to split up the story, where I also predicted part 1 Midgar only. So for me, it was clear from the beginning, but not everybody is me. So most of the people probably hoped, maybe Chunon or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of the outside world, the flashback.
Yes.
But from a storytelling perspective, it never made sense for me. So I was glad they finally confirmed it when they did. Yeah. But it took quite a while, a couple of months after the reveal.
Okay. So yeah, for some reason, I guess it flew under the radar for me. And then I remember whenever it was revealed, or whenever I found out that it was revealed, it was a huge thing. And a lot of people were like, what? So
yeah. I think the first time that we saw it was in 2015, right? It was at E3. Was the first
teaser,
trailer?
yes.
The teaser. And then that's when, everybody lost their minds. And then we didn't see it again, I think, until 2017, which was 2 years after they brought it in-house or something.
19. The next trailer was kind of a teaser trailer in the lead up to E3 at May 9th, 2019. And then about a month later was the full-blown 3-minute trailer with Tifa and stuff. In between, we only got, I think, only a screenshot or something. Like the key art with Cloud and Sephiroth and Midgar was in 2017, the only one. Oh, right. And also 2 screenshots from the bombing mission. Like one where Cloud hides behind a crate, and one with the guard Scorpion or Scorpion Sentinel. Where they had a updated UI. I also dug my teeth into that one. But besides that, basically nothing. It was May 2019 when they kicked off the whole advertising campaign.
They're really good at keeping it close to the chest, or keeping their cards to them before they, before they actually really have something in a release, like a solid, we're going to release the game soon.
Oh, for sure.
Give us breadcrumbs.
Imagine they just, drop it, just give us a trailer at E3. Everybody would lose their minds.
Just a surprise.
Just a surprise. The one more thing, at the end.
We're all waiting for it. Literally. I know we joke, but everybody's probably like, all right, it's happening.
Yeah.
Or maybe just 5 or 10 seconds, they exit the swamp and then they see the soul on Spike, and then it cuts to black or something. Did Sephiroth do this?
Guys, I would be okay with just showing the bird. I feel like it's going to be like the bird's eye view, and it's going to show the bird flying, and then we're going to zoom down, and it's going to show them like in the truck.
Oh, right. Yeah.
What if it just shows them chilling out at the beach? They're just all in a beach
Ooh.
scene since it's the summer.
Yeah. Surfing and building castles.
Yeah.
I'm down for anything.
Yeah, getting a ball kicked into one's face.
All right, guys. So moving on here, let's talk about the Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis opening trailer. So during the anniversary event, we did get a quick look at this clip that they're calling an opening video. The language of the stream was in Japanese, and also the VAs for the trailer were Japanese. So I don't know if there's been a translation yet with subtitles, but I wasn't able to find one. So I don't know what the characters in this opening video of Ever Crisis were saying to one another. But Square Enix Glacy on the stream, because there was an English stream, I think that happened the day after on February the 1st, which I did watch. So at the very end, she said a few interesting things. So she said that they introduced a new character who will lead you through the tutorial of Ever Crisis, and that's, I guess, the girl with the brown hair in the trailer. There's other characters as well in the helicopter with her, and who are like main characters apparently. She said that this is the first time really that they can talk about this. She did kind of stumble over her words a little bit when she was telling us like what this was about, and she started to say, oh, let's see, okay, so they're going to be fighting, and then she like cut herself off as if she was going to tell us something she wasn't allowed to tell us or something like that. And I was like, no, you can tell us, like keep going. But yeah, apparently this character is a character from the First Soldier that you will see during the tutorial of Ever Crisis. So they're trying to tie it in, like the First Soldier with Ever Crisis. So there's consistency there. And that's pretty much it. I'm hoping, I was hoping that we would get more than that, but I'm excited to see the initial trailer, and that they're, trying to tie everything together in this world. I hope that it's not just like shoehorned in, you know what I mean? Just like forced, because like people who are going to play Ever Crisis that never played the First Soldier might not know who this character is. You know what I mean? So it's getting a little murky. I don't know. What did you think about the trailer, John?
So like the cutscene itself was really impressive, and like you said, I haven't actually seen translated what they were actually saying, like what that dialogue was. I've been looking everywhere. I still can't find anything. But the closest thing I've seen was there were predictions that was the Shinra warrior heading to Wutai, but I don't know if that's the case or not. But I was really impressed. Like it looked good. It was movie quality that they had. But I don't see how, like from the original the gameplay trailer that we saw for Ever Crisis, I don't know how those two things are gonna intertwine with each other. Like how that's actually gonna work. They look very different.
The style's different, yeah, because we have Ever Crisis has only shown like little like chibi characters, kind of.
Yeah.
So that is interesting.
Yeah, but so I think that would be cool to see how they work those together. But story-wise, I'm so excited to actually get this is kind of like one of those things where there's been a lot of different tellings of it, and we're hopefully getting it all in one place. This story,
Yeah.
So I'm excited, very excited.
What do you think, Vyzz?
I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm also questioning how they are tying this together, like the First Soldier, which is a completely new narrative, and all those other new stuff they promised us, like the backstories of Shinra executives and whatever, and backstory of that legendary soldier, which is of course Sephiroth. I'm pretty sure that this pre-rendered scene is kind of connected to this new additional narrative. How it ties into the other games, I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's kind of how do they call this, like a museum where you can just experience old memories again, like go back and see old pictures and movie clips and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Memorial or something, or
memorial.
Yeah, kind of. Maybe it's something like that in the game, that you just unlock chapter by chapter by chapter, so you can just instead
be
of
really
just
cool.
looking at pictures and reading text,
Oh,
or
I see.
that you play through those
Right.
those parts.
Hmm.
But I'm not quite sure how this would tie in with the new story parts. If it's just additional, and we also play through those with the chibi characters and with the more mature characters in the battle,
Hmm.
or if playing through basically the timeline of Final Fantasy VII within this new part, I don't know. It's a little bit. It sounds a little bit weird. But the first soldier is basically the premise of the first soldier is that they are playing or battling each other in VR, which projects images from the future, like Wutai and all those things, or mostly just areas from Remake, from what I've seen, or also areas from outside. So it's a little bit weird. It's like it feels like a little bit of timey-wimey live stream stuff, but I don't have enough information to really
Yeah, that's true.
come to a conclusion. I can just throw spaghetti at the wall and hopefully something sticks. But it's basically where I am right now.
Is it confirmed that the video that we saw is actually going to be an Ever Crisis? That's the opening trailer for it, or the opening cinematic for the game?
It's how I understand it, but maybe it's just translation error or something. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They called it on stream. They said opening video. So I don't know.
Okay, well then probably is, yeah.
So the only thing I'll say in that is I'm hoping that we have like the characters that we've seen, like the cheapy characters, like those guys are actually who we're playing as, and then the cutscenes are what we saw in that event. But it's different even still from how Final Fantasy VII was, with the cutscenes, or like you were saying, the movies that were in the game. It's different from that even, because you get so much more I don't know, just personality, and you get more definition in these characters. So I don't know how they're gonna bring those two together. I'm interested though.
Maybe it's just as simple as we just play through the chapters and unlock short clips of this new story, which
that'd be cool.
To which this is the opening for, like maybe Reeves' backstory is one unlock, and then Palmer's backstory is one unlock, and then part of Sephiroth's backstory is one unlock again, and then we unlock several parts of Sephiroth's stories, several parts of the Shinra Executive stories, and then do the big one at the end, something like that. And we need to play through the Final Fantasy VII timeline to basically get to know this new story. That's also what could happen, what I can see happening.
I like that. Yeah, that's really cool. It's a good idea.
What I also find interesting, this scene kind of reminds me a little bit of Picturing the Past. It's this short story about Aerith and others in the world preview book, and also they put it into the Traces of Two Paths again, where Aerith sometimes falls into a trance and draws pictures, and those are usually pictures of locations on the world. And then President Shinra sends military units to those locations to find clues to the Promised Land, because, well, they're in search of it to build Neo Midgard there. And the first thing that has come to mind when I watched this, just thought, hey, this could be just a scene of a few military units going towards such a potential spot for the Promised Land. But since I'm not proficient enough in Japanese to actually understand it, and I didn't really want to take the time to actually try and translate it myself. I just thought, well, maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's not. I don't care. I just wait for more information. I've got other things to do. Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited for Ever Crisis, but just us talking about it now, so far, I think there's been like 3 distinct different visual styles, which is a little alarming to me.
Yeah.
Especially like we had the chibi characters, and then in the battle, it's remake graphics, which is basically a little, like, I don't know. It's not really consistent. So, and now we've got this cutscene where it's like realistic characters. So I'm a little concerned. Anyway, I don't know. I am really excited about it because I want to be able to play through the whole story beginning to end, like everything, the whole compilation, which I think this is the closest that we're going to get to a re-release or a remaster of the original like compilation series. So
Yeah.
I also have an idea why they chose those art styles and why they're different and stuff. So maybe I also saw that in the chibi style, chibi art style, like when you're running around,
Mhm.
there are a lot of remake assets lying around, like
Yes.
the surroundings are basically just ripped and redrawn or converted remake assets. And in the battle, basically as well, it's just remake battle assets from
Yes.
Aerith, Cloud, and the
Mhm.
others. I think even the animations are the same. I think it's just an issue of reusing assets to save money and time and effort.
Mhm.
Yeah. But why make the characters chibi? They could have just been like the normal remake models with like less pixels or whatever. They could have modified them. I don't know. Because it's too close to remake.
Yes, and probably also because of like the presentation and to actually handle all of this, like create
Yeah.
the levels and everything. It's much easier to handle chibi characters and this fixed camera
Mhm.
overview level design than basically recreate remake in a mobile setting or
Mm.
like just scale down everything as if you would basically convert it to a Switch version or something.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
And maybe also to distinguish itself from remake, that it's not remake,
Yeah, that's
it's
what I
it's
thought
the
too.
original, and the original also had those Lego chibi characters.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
So it's similar because
Yeah.
you would go into battle and the characters
Or
were
also
different.
more high res. Exactly.
Yeah, like a little high
Mhm.
res.
Yeah. But then we have Crisis Core and Before Crisis, which all had individual art styles. So they probably just had to create everything anew for those. But yeah, chibi art style is pretty easy comparatively to produce. So
Did they show us any of the in the teaser trailer? Did they show us anything outside of the parameters of Remake Part 1 yet? Like the other story arcs that are going to be available?
I don't think so.
no, only the opening from Crisis Core with Zack on a train. That's basically it.
Mm-hmm.
And then bombing mission scenes and scene with Tifa in the bar, and I think that's it.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
maybe the memory scene, I guess, whenever.
Yeah,
the
right,
promise,
right. The
but-
promise, yeah, promise flashback.
but-
Yeah,
Mhm.
on the.
I'm
on the
really
water
excited
tower.
to see how the rest of the actual game looks, though, man. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
same.
gosh,
Mhm.
some of those parts are going to be so cool to see. Because, I mean, Dirge is, I think, the only Final Fantasy game that I have never played through myself. Like, I have watched playthroughs now of it,
Mhm.
just gone back and done so. But as a kid, I had a PSP, and I got to play Crisis Core. And my brother's girlfriend at the time or something was like, let me borrow it. And I never saw it again. So,
Oh no.
yeah. Dirge was one that I never got to play. So I'm really excited to actually get to play through that story itself. So
Yeah.
and I've heard that, I haven't heard many great things about Dirge. So I don't know.
Yeah, gameplay is a little bit
Mhm.
let's say acquired taste.
Yeah. Do you think in Ever Crisis they're going to do the same type of like battle systems that were unique to each game, or do you think they're going to have like one that goes throughout the entire story?
Well, thinking back to what I said before, in terms of reusing assets to save time and money, I'm pretty sure it's just one battle system throughout the whole timeline. Basically, it's what
That'd
I
be
am
cool.
expecting.
Mhm.
If not, well, the more battle systems, the better. It's interesting to play a little bit different for each story, but they also said that there is a separate boss rush mode, basically, where you can just select a boss and whichever unlocked characters you have. Well, I don't think they specifically mentioned unlocked characters, but just you can just choose whichever character to fight whichever boss, and then just go for it. It's outside of the main story. It's just probably a separate submenu.
Mhm.
That'd be fun.
And then my prediction is you can unlock all the characters by playing the chapters where they appear in first. Then you can use them for the boss rush mode. So like you can used Zack, Vincent, and Yuffie or something for battling Bottomswell and Junon. I don't know, just something like that.
That'd be very cool.
Yeah, for sure.
But it does make sense that it's going to be consistent because they're currently working on part 2 and all of that. So they'll have those assets to be able to draw from to use, I think, in Ever Crisis for their chapters that are outside of Midgard. But we'll have to wait and see. But I'm really excited for Ever Crisis.
Yeah.
All right, so there was a First Soldier crossover event with Final Fantasy VII OG. So we did get the original polygonal figure skins in the First Soldier. Seems really cool. I haven't tried it out yet because I'm terrible at it. So, John, have you been playing the First Soldier?
I have, yeah. I have been playing it a good bit. And actually, so I didn't get to apply for the ambassadorship in the first one because I was lazy and I don't know. I just didn't do the research. But I've applied for it this time, so we'll see what happens. And the crossover event, man, like I am actually kind of excited and disappointed in it. Like, if that makes sense. Like, I really like the characters. They're really cool. I love the throwback. I love seeing them in the game whenever I'm like playing against other people. But I wish there was a different way you could actually get them instead of the. It kind of feels a little cash grabby a little bit to like the actual how you can get the characters in the game. You can't just buy them. You have to. It's like there's a draw, and you get there are these Shinra tickets that you get, premium Shinra tickets. And so for every one of those, you get like 3 random drops, and it costs it costs like 5 to get a 3 drop, and there's only like I think it's like a 0.0025% chance you'll get one of the characters.
What?
Oh, really?
Yeah, man, it's rough. If you could just buy them in the shop, I would have already spent like $60.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's rough.
Maybe have both options, like if people want to buy them for, $10 a piece or $20 a piece, then you can do that. Or you can just continuously buy the tickets so that you can try to get it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I mean, the game does give you some tickets for free, like doing the event
they do.
Stuff.
Yeah.
So that would be a free way to try it. And then if you didn't get it, you could spend that money. That would be a cool way to do it. But yeah. So I am excited about it. Hopefully I'll end up getting them. And that's probably also why I'm kind of like bitter about it, because I still haven't got them yet.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I need to get back into it. I played it for a bit, but I'm really bad. So I just... Like, honestly, time is very limited around here for me. So, like, when I'm playing games, I'm trying to, like, find games that I find, like I want to put the time into that I'm interested in. You know what I mean? Like, I'm interested in this. It's just that I'm not that great at it. And I know that I could get better if I continuously try. But, like, I'm a controller person. So, like, I don't know how it is since the patches and everything, but the controller functionality was pretty bad when it first came out, and I was having like issues with it. But I need to kind of dive back in now that it's been updated quite a bit and just kind of give it another try and see.
It has gotten significantly better since the last update that they did with the controller. Like, there's actually a little cursor that you can move with the joysticks or the thumbsticks, and you can, instead of having like, I can do certain stuff with the controller, use my finger for other things. So yeah. It makes it a lot, like that controller update has helped a ton. And but it's still kind of, like every once in a while I'll go through something and it'll still like glitch out on me while I'm trying to play. So that part is kind of annoying still. But it's getting better.
It's good to hear.
And what do you think, Vyzz?
Not too much, because I don't play the First Soldier. For one, because it's a battle royale. It's not really my thing, and second of all, it's a mobile game, and I don't play mobile games. I'm already occupied by others, like PS5 games, and right now a Trail series, the Sky series on PC, because there's none on the PS5 yet. But I've seen screenshots and that they look pretty cool, and it's just nice fan service in my eyes.
Yeah.
So and it looks hilarious that this high polygonal figure clashes with Miss Cloud, Lego style. It's funny.
Yeah. All right, guys. So moving on here, Chrono Cross Remaster was announced. It was announced during a recent Nintendo Direct. So I just added this because I thought it was crazy, Vyzz, because you and I mentioned this last episode, and here we are. We were talking about the NVIDIA leak document that had like a list of games that were apparently going to be released. And if we check and look back, I think that most of those that were on there have been revealed or released since then. I remember it was Remake for PC and also I think it was Alan Wake, this game. Although some people thought it was going to be a remake. I think it said Chrono Cross Remake, but it was a remaster. And then there were others as well. So it's kind of made this leak a little bit more legitimate in my eyes.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because I think Final Fantasy IX Remake was on that list and a bunch of other games that people have been asking for and freaking out over. And some people on social media have been dropping like hints about like games that apparently are going to be announced soon and stuff like that. So I just wanted to mention this. So here we are. I think that it looks nice. Some people have been saying online that, you know, with an emulator, you can do everything that this release version has in it or make it even look even better. But, you know, that's usually the case with these like remasters, right? Where we're going to get, you know, the font looks better, the character models, but the game is only going to look so good. You know what I mean? Without, you know, people coming in and creating mods where you can actually like replace the background so it's more high def or, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And I think that it is great because it includes the localized version of the text adventure Radical Dreamers, which is really great because it wasn't translated before, right? So we didn't have it in North America. So people being able to, you know, choose between, to get that story and also choose between the original graphics or the updated graphics, and having those extra options there, I think it's great. And I'm excited for this. I don't know when I'll pick it up or if I'll have time to play it this year, but I have so many PS5 games in my backlog, and you know, Forbidden West just came out, which I'm not even gonna touch right now because I'm into Ghost of Tsushima, deep into that, and I love it. And then also Elden Ring's coming out, so like, you know, it's just
Yes.
I'm never gonna finish these games. I'm never gonna do it. But
Man, I bit off way too much. Like, I just actually got Forbidden West, knowing that Elden Ring's coming out on Thursday, and I'm trying to beat it before Thursday, but my gosh. And I'm trying to do it on stream too, so it's like even more impossible.
Exactly.
It's been rough. It was a poor choice. Poor choice on my part.
Why? Why do that to yourself? I'm the same way, dude. I'm the same way. And then I will stop playing a game, and then I just will start something else, and I'll never go back and finish it. Like, I'll never go back and finish it. I don't know why, but anyway.
That's why I'm waiting on Horizon until I finish Trails in the Sky second chapter.
Yeah.
Only then I buy it and I start playing it. And then I finish it, and then I start Trails in the Sky third.
That is a good way to do it.
Yes, exactly.
I am really excited for the Chrono Cross Remastered, and like, it gives so much validity to the NVIDIA leak that like I feel like this game was the nail in the coffin for it. We're like, okay, it's real now. Like, I don't know. I was already giving it a lot of weight, but now I'm just like, it's happening. Everything on that list is probably real. So,
well, Kingdom Hearts 4 certainly is, because that's basically has been confirmed since forever. Kingdom Hearts 4 will come out in some fashion sometime in the future, but probably a few years out.
Yeah, I'm wondering though, like the one that I'm the most what if about is Final Fantasy IX, but it said remake and not remaster, and so I'm like, are we getting a full 7 remake treatment to 9? Because 9 was actually a huge game in itself. Or
9 is basically an animation movie game if you remake it. That's pretty wild, actually.
I'm really curious as to how they'd actually implement that, how that's going to be a thing. So
definitely. Back to Chrono Cross, I played it in the past, also on an emulator. Looked pretty good. The battle system is a little bit special, let's say. It's I'm not quite sure if I should like it or loathe it, but it was fun to a certain degree. But then I think I got distracted by another game and then never finished it. I don't think I was even halfway through. But in general, I think it's a pretty good game. Has a lot of charming characters and an interesting story. But it's also been quite a while, so I forgot probably like 80% of it. If I ever have time and not many other games to play or to choose from, maybe I'll pick it up and try to play it. Not quite sure if the new graphics or the old upscale graphics. I've seen screenshots of both, and I like both. So I don't know. I'll have to see. But I think it's really nice from them to let us choose to just get the original experience, high res, or the completely redrawn character portraits, and I think even new models and textures.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do like that they are re-releasing older titles because it's kind of like preservation, right? Where it's being upgraded, yes, but the video games are made available now so that we have them in the future. You know what I mean? And they just don't kind of get lost and, never seen or played ever again, which a lot of the times does happen, and it's really sad because there were some so good games from that era. You know what I mean?
Can I just say Golden Sun? That game I have talked about to everybody that has an ear right now. I'm like, please remake this game. But yeah, like
I totally play that, yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. But yeah.
Somebody on Twitter was saying that they just basically they were saying that there was going to be a game announced soon or shown soon or something, and it was a Sony Entertainment first party game, but it's a JRPG in a series that we've seen the most recent entry in that series in the last 5 years. And that's all he could say. So like people were like,
oh gosh,
looking like freaking out, like they were just like going through like all the old games, right, from like 1995, and because I think he said the series is in the 90s.
Oh my gosh,
the first game. So people were freaking out, trying to figure out what it is. I did for a bit. I looked back and I was like, oh, maybe it's this. But then I looked to see if they had a like the most recent like version of that game was released in the last 5 years, and I couldn't find anything because that would be like 2017 or something like that. So I wasn't able to figure it out. But people are losing their minds over that, and it's probably one of these old, JRPGs.
Wild Arms or something like that.
Yeah, that's what people were saying. It's Wild Arms. Yeah. But I don't think we've seen that in the last 5 years or the latest entry of that.
I don't quite remember because I never really played the series. I just got to know it through friends and stuff.
I think that it did have a mobile version though in 2018, so it could be.
Yeah, it could be
Wild Arms.
Yeah. There are at least four core games that I know of. Maybe there are some spin-offs, I don't know. Yeah, but I would totally play that as well. Why not? The more the merrier.
Yeah.
The 90s was full of great RPGs, to be fair.
Yeah.
JRPGs.
All right, guys. So moving on here, we did have potential other Final Fantasy VII projects, I guess, that Nomura had said that they were working on at Square Enix. We did talk a little bit about this just then about the NVIDIA leak and, FF9, potentially they could be working on that. For more Final Fantasy VII projects, I just said I'm not entirely sure, but I remember there being a rumor about a Netflix Final Fantasy VII anime or something like that. So I don't know if he was referring to that. But people have been asking for, Crisis Core, like a whole compilation remaster. But I don't think we're going to get that because we're getting Ever Crisis. So I was thinking maybe like a Turk spin-off game or something like that.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's the only thing that I could really think about. I know like before Crisis is, really focused on the Turks as well. But I just mean like a new age kind of, PS5 graphics, like Turks game spin-off. I don't know. But Anyways.
I mean, that would be cool too. And the book, The Kids Are All Right, that would be a really cool story to turn into a game or have some type of way to play through.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Kyrie and Leslie are also in there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we've already got the characters drawn out, man. Just give us the game.
Yeah.
I mean, if they did Crisis Core Remake or in, like we were saying, like Dirge of Cerberus, like I would love to play through that game. So either one of those two, I think, obviously have a huge fan base or a really already built-in crowd that they would hardly have to market that to.
Or maybe something about those 2,000 years ago, the end of the Cetra, or basically the end, and Genoa's arrival.
Oh my gosh. And that's a dark story to tell, too, because we know how it ends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Shiva's also there, so.
Yeah, oh my gosh. That would be an amazing one. Like, I don't know if they've even ever talked about that, but that'd be a really cool story to tell.
Also, in intermission, there's the description of Ramu, and he was also like a stern god, or a god that wasn't quite as nice, and like cast judgment upon those who didn't follow orders, what have you. And maybe it was really this great king back then. Like they were just not Cetras, but also like greater entities. Maybe not greater entities, but like powerful Cetra, who then ended up being summons, like Sephiroth told the group in the cut dialogue. Unfortunately, cut dialogue in the Temple of the Ancients. So there's a lot to explore.
Yeah, yeah, there is. There's a ton. We could. That's what I like about the idea of Ever Crisis for me is that hopefully they flush out all the story, and then that's like our go-to encyclopedia of Final Fantasy VII, you know?
Yeah.
I'm still hoping for like a Final Fantasy VII dating sim or something. You know?
Why not?
I keep saying it. Final Daddy, like Dream Daddy.
Yeah, the shippers will go crazy on that one.
All right, guys, so moving on here, we are talking about the world of Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. So to start us off here, we are going to be touching on level design in Part 2 and future parts. So Vyzz, did you kind of want to start us off with this section?
Gladly. It was I who proposed this topic anyway, so let's start off. Just had a heads up, I didn't really make any notes, so I'm gonna wing it. Because in the previous episode, I had everything written down regarding trophies that I didn't forget anything. But here, I think it's better to just let it all out.
Go for it. Go for it.
All right. Level design. So in this first game, we had mostly like tunnel design, more like Final Fantasy XIII corridors, a little bit broader and a bit more, for example, in the towns or in the slums, a bit more open areas, more connected tunnels. But in the end, it was more confined and railroaded, basically.
Yeah,
on rails. Sometimes literally on rails. You couldn't even turn back in certain scenes. And I'm pretty sure this will substantially change it. That they're going more towards a Final Fantasy XII like zoned approach, like big zones, not smaller zones connected with each other, because we now have the horsepower to render everything and handle it. But I'm far away to say or to predict they're going open world like Final Fantasy XV, because then we'll just lose ourselves in the big areas and just run around like chickens, collecting gems and doing beating mobs and doing other works for NPCs and stuff. And I don't see that happening, at least not until probably one of the later parts, penultimate or even the last part, when we have the High Wind, where basically just can do whatever we want.
Yes.
But up to Icicle Inn and even the Northern Crater and the Whirlwind Maze, I'm pretty sure it's very linear, at least what the storytelling is concerned. and level design needs to complement storytelling, that it makes sense,
Yeah.
as to not kill the pacing. But since we're going through an open world, not an open world level design, but the open world, like not just in one city, but actually running through meadows and swamps and
Yes, exactly.
beaches.
Like you're
and-
outside.
Yeah, exactly. Then just running through corridors wouldn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
That's my initial take. I might add some more, but I want you guys to get your opinions out there. I'm interested.
So for me, I was thinking in the OG, there were some areas that are quite small, right? So like you go into it and it's like one screen, you know what I mean? How
Yeah.
it just had a screen and there was a set path that you would walk. It's like 1 or 2 screen areas. I think that these areas will be made a lot larger. And I think that there will be opportunity to kind of turn these areas into larger type dungeons potentially that we will be hopefully rewarded for if we discover them and we, go through the whole area. I'm thinking that we'll still be funneled in a corridor for certain areas, like if we're going into, through the story parts, the story beats, obviously. Hopefully we'll actually be allowed to turn around though and go back or something, because that was super annoying.
Yeah.
When they forced us to keep going. I understand why, but I just want to have freedom, because I thought I forgot something in the church and then I couldn't go back.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Fair.
I forgot one of the materials. I remember. Then I texted Vyzz right away, and I was like, "Yo, I know you're done and I'm not. So can I go back and get that? Because I forgot it. Now I'm really mad. But you do eventually go back." And
Yeah.
he was like, "No, you'll be able to get it later." I'm like, "Oh, thank God." But stuff like that, just just funneling us. Okay, that's fine. It's the narrative is happening and the story is going, but then giving us a break from that and just kind of letting us, go on our own devices and explore and, having more buildings be explorable as well, not just having a box that's solid with
Yeah.
it has textures on the outside where there's you can't look in and there's nothing inside. I know there's going to be some of that anyway, but just I don't know. I want more of that because I want to see people actually living in these towns in their houses. Why not just go in and see? And they're like, "Oh God, who are you? Get out of my house," or something. Just people are real. It's real. They're not just all in the street and they don't go into their house.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to see a living, breathing world, and I think that they have the potential to, be able to give us that. I did say maybe a fusion of platformer and third person, where they kind of already played with this idea anyway when the camera would zoom out when you're climbing higher. You know how the
right.
camera kind of goes to the side? I'm thinking near Automata kind of, but you can't jump,
yeah.
so you don't really have the ability to kind of have battles that way. And I'm thinking, going up the Dachao statue, let's say in Wutai. I just watched that segment on YouTube before the episode, and I'm like, it would be interesting if they could kind of turn it more platformer, maybe, where they zoom out and you're going up the trails. I don't know if they're gonna do it third person, where they make it so large that you're climbing up this mountain that if you get into a battle, how are they gonna do that? I was just trying to wrap my head around doing a platformer area, going up there. And if you get into battle in the original, you're going through the path, they have these little bugs and they're silk bugs or something. Maybe they're they're flying in the air and you jump and you actually attack them. You don't have to get into a battle with it. I don't know. Anyway, just a weird idea that I had, which probably doesn't sound like fun, but anyway.
I think it would be really cool. I'm wondering, to be honest, I feel like they've done a good job of funneling us through the story. And even in the original, it had an open world feel to it, especially as soon as in the part that we're about to be in part 2. They did a really good job of, once you got out of Midgar, you're like, "Oh my God, this is so open," And again, as a kid, whenever I first played through it, the reason it took me so long to even get to the Nibelheim flashback is because I might have missed out on some dialogue that told me that we were meeting up in Calm, where Calm was. So I'm over there, probably already almost got a golden chocobo by the time I even entered into Calm, because I'm side, going out, meeting the chocobos and trying to get past the snake and then doing all these things. But So I had really kind of done a lot of other stuff, and they made it really open world back then, even just in that part. So I feel like as long as they can give us that sense of, wow, this is really open, and then, you know, maybe take it away from us for certain parts and funnel us into story relevant areas, I think that would still give us that false sense of openness, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a section later on I'll go more into, but
Yes.
I'm also in favor of balance between funneled, more constricted areas and moving forward areas, basically, and bigger areas where we can like decide our own pace, where we have a few points of interest where we can interact with or go to, some optional, some not. I'm pretty sure this is the way to go because, well, it kind of was a little bit like that in Sector 7 and 5 and 6 slums, but it's kind of like too small. Those are towns, and towns are meant to be explored and to take on side quests and what have you. But it's not quite the same. It's not quite the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And speaking of handling cities, what do you think about how they should handle cities or populated areas? You, Kai, already mentioned something like we need to go into people's houses and steal their stuff. Well, maybe not steal their stuff, but get told off or something.
Even just having them like people inside, you know, where you can actually go in. And I don't mean every single building, but not everybody, you know, in Calm needs to be in the street. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
That's the thing in the slums too, where it's like everybody is out of their home or they're just inside, but they don't go between. They don't go between being outside to go inside. Like, unless it's it's a shop and they're going in and out, but they don't, which is like playing Ghost of Tsushima. Like, I can go into like a dwelling or whatever, and there's people in there, and you hear them, either they're scared or they'll say something, piece of dialogue that you get. Like, it's just, I just want more of that, where it seems like more of like a lived in world, living and breathing. I do appreciate having all of the NPCs, and like they tried to really flesh it out and make it like that, but I think they probably couldn't do it or something. I don't know if it was technical limitations or they just didn't have time, but that's something to make it more real for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if they do allow us to have more interaction with those people, and in particular in Calm, if they could fix one thing for me, if they could allow us to get that item out of that cabinet, and that would make me very happy. And what if we get it and it's just a note? It's just like a note from the design, like the director, and he's like, "Hey,
that would be great."
That'd be great.
No, don't you know you're gonna open it and it's gonna be an NFT?
Oh no!
Square Enix first NFT.
Yeah, then you enter the battle against the NFT.
We're going full on like what game was that? Control, where you had to fight like the monsters within the things, like.
Yeah.
But I honestly agree with what you're saying. I feel like if they make it so where we get to actually have a little bit more character to these NPCs and like show a little bit more about the actual towns, I think that would be a really good thing. And not everybody has to, I don't guess.
No.
But yeah, just have some people that have a little bit more story to it.
Yeah.
For sure. Although even in part 1, when you were patient enough, you could just listen to all the NPC chatter, and they have a lot to talk about, really a lot. But this is not really an interaction. You just listen to.
You're just listening.
I prefer that more characters are actually like you can interact with those. In Calm, I remember that you can talk to many of them, and some even ask you what your opinion is about Shinra. Like some are more pro Shinra and Mako. Some I think know the life before Shinra and Mako was better, and depending on how you react, of course they react too. But you also affect the affection system, like who you're taking on a date later. So it was also pretty cool. So I hope this they retain that, at least actively talking to NPCs. Maybe you don't need to enter every homestead
No,
because,
exactly.
it's quite rude to just enter anybody's home. But maybe somebody has an open house party or something. You can go in and talk to people, or maybe within a side quest, you have to bring a kid home or something. I don't know. Just something in the story integrated that allows you to enter somebody's home, so you also see, hey, this is what a home looks like, and this is how they live. And if you only see shops and inns, that it's not really representative of the people that live there. And in Calm, it's really important. I feel that you need to experience how they live. Also in Cosmo Canyon, this is the way of life in there. It's so special, and you need to even get into this little room with all the cushions and I call it the chill room, where you could just flop down and just hang back, smoke a pipe, whatever you want, and just chill. It was pretty nice there.
Yeah, I just wonder, if we have. I actually made like a kind of a list of even like small, I guess, kind of like side areas that were involved in the game, where I'm thinking start to finish of part 2 might be. It's so massive that if I don't know, I hope they don't skip over the tiny details like these parts, like how they can have the small interactions, because of how huge this game now has to be after like
yeah for sure. I think that's the crux there. That's why I also feel 3 parts in total is probably cutting a bit too tight. Because they now need to include so many things and explore everything, make everything bigger, expand on things, introduce subplots, and include all the compilation lore in there, as they've already done in part 1. There's so much to do, and that's why I think part 2 will end at Nibelheim, present Nibelheim, with some huge revelation and extremely expanded upon, because Nibelheim is so important. And in the original game, you just basically pass through, talk to some hooded people, and meet Sephiroth. He throws the materia at you, flies off, and then you're done. And this just wouldn't fly for the remake. Definitely not. So
you're the second person I've heard say that. Of everybody I've talked to, a lot of people will give me different ideas on where they think it's going to end. Like, a lot of people are saying Castle Sol or like Junon or something. But I really agree. I think that bringing us back into Nibelheim would be the perfect like little like icing on the cake. If it starts us off in the in the Nibelheim incident, if it starts us off in that truck, and then it ends us in the town, and they're like, wait, I thought this doesn't burn down. What? Or like, something along those lines.
Yeah. And please let us do something in the reactor. The reactor is just there. You can get in. There's nothing there. It's just so underwhelming.
But if you even take those parts, like if we did go all the way and not really even go into Nibelheim yet, like say we do just walk into Nibelheim, look at all the stuff that they have before that, because that's all the way up
to
a lot. Golden Saucer. I mean, that's even Cosmo Canyon. I didn't even think about this, but like leading up to that, there's so much stuff. It's huge.
North Corel and Costa del Sol, Junon, and Fort Condor, and
I really do hope that we at least get to there. That would be amazing. And if we can get in the Golden Saucer, that part, like, I'm gonna spend an entire week just like gambling and like
for sure.
So I don't. But yeah, I think I know I got way off track on that. But handing the lists and populations, it just, I feel like to really be able to fully like develop them as much as we would like them to, they're either gonna have to cut out some parts or make more parts of the game, I guess is what I should. That's my thoughts.
Yes, definitely. Let's say in Final Fantasy 15, they already did a pretty good job, but also the same in part 1. It's you can't enter anything, and in 15 it was even worse. There were basically no buildings you could enter. All the like the inns and the restaurants were outside, most of them at
Yeah.
least. So there's not much we can take from the past to compare it to, unless we go further into the past, or maybe even other games. I can't think of another modern RPG that handles this well. I haven't played The Witcher 3 too much, just a little bit, like the first few hours. And you can enter cottages there, but it's still like tiny, and you enter one, it's one room, has a few things,
Yeah.
and you open a chest and then you're done.
Yeah.
I don't want that either.
Yeah. I think happy medium between both of those is good. Like, and I'm playing through Ghost of Tsushima, like I said. I really like going, like, I'm just exploring because I need to get, resources, or I need to get some kind of, material, let's say, for, upgrading my weapon or whatever. And there's like sacks of those resources like in people's houses that I can take. They do kind of like, some of them have dialogue that you can enable, like you can talk to them and they give you, basically you talk to them and then it unlocks a quest that goes on the map, which I really enjoy, because then it takes you to a different part of the map where you might you do that quest for that person, but then you're there and you might find somebody else, or you might find more lore about the story or what happened to this town or whatever. But I do agree that, like, once you've been in like one or two of the houses, they're like pretty much all the same. They have a ladder, you go up the ladder, there's some supplies there, you go down the ladder. Like, it's a little bit repetitive. I feel like they could have done better at designing like the buildings a little bit different, but I get it. It's like, at that time, that probably could have been like the most common format of a house. You know what I mean? So I don't know, but I feel like there's a way to do it. I feel like they did a good job in Remake. I do. Like, they did a good job. Like, some of the places you could go in, there were NPCs in there, like the bar and the the karaoke, the restaurant, the
Leaf
hotel,
House.
the Leaf House. Like, you could go into the doctor, not the doctor's office, but it was like that retirement.
Yeah, the retirement home. Or the community center, I think it's called.
Yeah. It was good. But I feel like sometimes the side quests were just more like, go and fetch this for this person. They give us some lore, but I don't know. It's kind of like, use it as an opportunity for us to kind of get lost and then discover things and then find out more lore that way, and we'll find our way back. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we need to be funneled and pushed, and like every single thing kind of like fed to us is like, leave us and let us just kind of figure it out. Like, we're smart, we can do it. And I think it's a great opportunity for new character introductions as well. Like we saw in part 1, we got, Madame M and Chocobo Sam and
Andrea, Leslie.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So
Marl. Like, yeah. So these were fleshed out, right? There were bigger areas and more characters, and I think that's what's going to happen, is we're going to spend more time in these cities and areas where in the original we only spent a little bit of time before we moved on. Like, they're really going to flesh it out and make it seem bigger because we're there for longer. And then anyway, we'll talk about it in a bit, but that's what I think anyways.
I like that.
All right, so moving on here, transitions between areas. So Vyzz, I don't know if you want to start us off.
Yeah, I'll just make a short introduction. Transitions. The thing is, we've seen a transition in the intermission's ending scene, like they were walking towards Calm, but then got picked up by Chocobo Bill, got dropped off right outside town, basically. And this is just one day's worth of a walk. And if they are not using vehicles, just run and walk towards the next location, which is after Calm, the Chocobo Ranch. I looked on the map. If they kind of still keep the proportions of the world map, Calm Chocobo Farm is around 3 times longer than Midgard to Calm. So this means just 3 days on the road, and this is just not fun to play through. And if you know that, but still can just run between Calm and the Chocobo Ranch by foot, maybe takes 5 minutes or something. This would just mean, okay, yeah, the world is really, really small. and this doesn't really fly, I think. So in my mind, transitions could be either you take a vehicle and it cuts off, or you are on the vehicle and for a while you're just there. You can talk with the other characters if you want. Maybe it's not much fun on a small truck, but still, you could just talk to the other characters and then skip to the end if you want. To not just skip, but actually like experience the ride just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just cut to black and then they're on the other side of the swamp, for example, or what have you. Or they just start walking and then it fades to black and okay, now it fades in and it's dark already, so they've been walking for hours now, and then they see the solemn and a lightning strikes and rain starts dropping, and then they seek shelter in the mithril cave, and then we're there. Stuff like that. There's so many options they can choose from, I think. But everything 100% connected without any transition, I don't think that's even possible. Unless you just want to cut down on scale, but then it wouldn't feel like a planet anymore. Then it probably just feels like, we're running around the neighborhood. What do you guys think?
I feel like 15 did a... What was your take on the way that 15 handled going between place to place? Because I think, like, scale-wise, they gave us massive scale in traveling between towns in the game. Did you like how they did that, or what were your thoughts on it?
In principle, yes. It felt pretty large, but it didn't feel like a whole continent. It felt like, you're just in one countryside, like in a... I'm used to tiny Switzerland, but in the US, it's probably maybe a county or something. The size of a county. And if you think like that, it does work, and you actually have to ride for like 5 to 10 minutes if you want to cross half of it, or even the full of it, maybe 15 minutes in the car, and just watch the others drink coffee and read a book. You listen to some tunes and take in the countryside, the sights. It kind of makes sense, but this is also a road trip. This is one of the premises of Final Fantasy 15, and this makes sense. But in Final Fantasy 7 Remake, I'm not. It is a journey. That's true. But it is not a journey where you just freely roam around and go to places, collect the old king's arms, swords and stuff. It's not the same storyline. It's not the same premise. I don't think it would work, like creating one big area when you can just run around everywhere, drive around everywhere. There are sections where you can do it, like create a bigger hub area, not a hub city, but a hub area where you have access to 1, 2, or even 3 locations and a forest and what have you. But then you need a vehicle, like a buggy, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, and I was even thinking about this. There are certain parts in the game where distance traveled has a time relevance. Like, for instance, I think it was the diamond weapon. Whenever it's attacking Midgar, and it comes from one side of the ocean, walks the entire distance, and then makes it to Midgar. And I'm wondering how long would that take us to travel there, Because where are we at right there? The sleeping... Where... The ancient forest, maybe?
It appears quite close to Bone Village, but on the other side of the mountains.
Yes.
Like closer to Midgar on the east. But it's around there, basically. It just emerges from depths of the ocean and then just walks towards Midgar.
Yeah. So I'm wondering how they're going to... Oh, I mean, if you keep everything in the story within the same size and timing to travel and all that, I'm wondering how they're gonna make that seem desperate, and not like, it's gonna take like 3 days for him to... He's out of the ocean, we know he's heading in that direction, but it's gonna take him like a week or so.
I can see them firing up some sort of radar on the high wind, and you can always check there. Oh, he's there now, and
Oh,
you have
that'd
a
be
timer
cool.
probably, and you see, okay, it's there now. And if you travel there with the high wind, you can see him from above or something, like swimming happily towards Midgar or something.
That'd be so cool.
Otherwise, I don't think it's possible to recreate it 1-to-1.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah.
So, but I don't know. I think that timing is obviously going to be a factor, and if they're going to keep it, if they're going to keep it open world and keep proportions the same size, because like you said, I mean, from Midgar to Calm is really, like you said, it's about a day's trip, and it's a good bit further from Calm to the Chocobo Ranch. So
Yeah. So yeah, this is you need basically to either fade to black or use a vehicle to travel between places far away, and then when you're at the place, then there's a huge zone, huge area, whatever you want.
Yeah, I think that's what we're gonna get. I think we're gonna get transported to Calm, probably by Chocobo Bill. And then we are funneled through the story there. It's a large town. We're there, and it's going to be hours, like hours. And then when we're done that and we go to leave, then maybe like we discover, okay, we have to leave, but we need chocobos. Like we can't go unless we have those. So then maybe he picks us up and brings us to the chocobo farm.
That's a good idea.
And then we do the breeding, and then he's like, here, you can have it. Like you have them, like take them, whatever, and then we can use them to traverse. I'm not sure, but I think we're gonna be like driven there, whether it's gonna give us control of a vehicle or it's just gonna funnel us there. At least for the first half. Like I don't think that everything's gonna be unlocked. Like we can kind of go where we want until we get the chocobo and we've done like certain things. But we're gonna have to suspend our disbelief. Like I really think that
to a certain degree, for sure,
yeah. Like it's not gonna take us a day, because I don't think we're gonna have. Are we gonna have day and night cycles? Like I just don't see them doing. I don't even know if they're gonna do that. Like I don't think so.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's gonna be probably daytime, unless story specific elements require it to be nighttime, like they did in part 1.
Yes.
But I don't think like the distance between, Midgard to Calm is going to take us like a day or 3 days to get there, obviously, because it's not, they're not building it like, what is it called? Red Dead Redemption, which is very big, and it takes you a long time to travel by horse. Even in Ghost of Tsushima, it's like you have to do the same, because there's no way that you're riding horse from one side to the other in that short amount of time. But it has day and night cycles, so it does turn to night and then it's day, but it's still not really realistic. So I just see us probably, it opens, we're in the back of the truck, and then he drives us to Calm. We get out. It's big outside of the city. We can like explore and do things around there, but we can't like go all the way back and just travel back to Midgar in an open world. And then we do all the things there. That takes a long time, and then when we leave, we can either leave there and walk to the chocobo ranch or farm, whatever, and then or he might pick us up and drive us there, maybe, or I don't know.
Just talking about how big some of these cities are going to be. Has there ever been a game so ambitious? Like, it's so huge, man. It is insane, and like, so Elden Ring's coming out next week, and they're talking about like it's gonna be an open world Dark Souls. That already seems overwhelming to me, but like I know how big the story of 7 is, and I'm like, I have anxiety for the developers.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's why I think they need to create the illusion that it's a big world and make shortcuts to achieve it, but still make us feel like we have a lot of freedom to roam around, and that they're not cutting back on content. So the good example I started off before is between Calm and Chocobo Ranch, there's no like map you can traverse. It's just you either they travel there by foot and just fades to black, and 3 days later they're like all sweaty and dirty clothes, and okay, that's it's been 3 days, or they just get a ride over there, and it's basically the same. And then you have the
Mhm.
Chocobo Ranch with the huge grassy area, the meadows and whatever, and you catch Chocobo, you like tame it, and then you have Chocobos to traverse the marsh because otherwise
Yeah,
you're basically
exactly.
screwed. But since you
Yep.
have a Chocobo and they can race really fast, you can probably run through the whole marsh and you see on the other side the far end mountains. And
Mhm.
since they're so fast, you can outrun the Solom, and it's basically a race towards the other side, and that's a big area you can cross, but only because you're fast. But then
Mhm.
you're in the caves, and then the caves can maybe feel big, but since you don't see how big the mountains are, they can get away with like maybe a kilometer or even a half a mile for you North Americans, half a mile within the cave system, but actually
Mhm.
it's like 50 outside, but you don't see it, so it doesn't matter. So go inside, go through the cave, and then go outside, and you're on the other side. Maybe,
Mhm.
as I said, maybe 50 miles further to the west. And then you have a big area again with Junon in the far end and Fort Condor to the left.
Mhm.
And this could be one, maybe basically the first open world area. Maybe if it's possible to create this that it feels big and you don't lose yourself in it. But still,
Mhm.
there are so many things to explore there. Like there's a forest where it could meet your feet. There's a river you can
Yeah.
cross. Well, you can't cross it yet. Maybe you can still cross it now. To the cave with the sleeping man or something. I really hope it's still there. And
Mhm.
yeah, just many points of interest in within reach.
Yeah.
That can happen also between Gold Saucer and the Cosmo Canyon, and you have the buggy, so it doesn't take as long.
Mhm.
This kind of reminds me of Uncharted 4 where there's this one big area where you can traverse with the buggy. You can with the jeep. You can always step out and explore caves and stuff, but you
Right.
can just drive around, which is
Mhm.
pretty fast. You have to drive around. I don't think you can cross certain things, certain parts without it.
Mhm.
But this is something I imagine. It's a huge open zone.
Mhm.
By
Yes.
foot, it's crazy. You probably shouldn't, but with the buggy, it's pretty easy.
Okay.
But not the whole game, of course. Just this area between
Yes, exactly.
certain locations.
Mhm.
Like 2 or 3 times in part 2 alone, if it ends at Nibelheim. And I think that is something they can achieve and will be able to press into one game. But when we
Mhm.
go to like Tiny Bronco and Highwind, there's an entirely different conversation.
Yeah. So our next part here, we're talking about corridors versus open areas, and I know that we touched on this previously. So I think that it will be a combination of both. Like I said, when the story is pushing us forward, we're going to have to kind of follow along, and we're, forced to go into corridor kind of, constructed areas. But I think that there will be also large open areas that we can explore further if we really want to. I said in the OG, we couldn't exactly go where we wanted. When we first leave Midgar, we have a
Mhm.
choice, but it's a choice between like 3 or 4 places. You know what I mean? Like this game wasn't like people think that this game was like this massive open world game, like initially for the whole thing, but it wasn't. It was very, story driven, but we
Mhm.
had a choice for where we could go, but it wasn't just like a massive open world game, right? So I think that we're going to see similar things here. Like we can go to certain places. Some places aren't accessible right now because you're only in a certain part of the story. You need a certain vehicle or whatever. And then yeah, you leave and then you're in Junon, like Vyzz said, and it's larger, and then it's even larger, and maybe it's like, even bigger, but it's not completely like 100% open world, which they've said anyway that it's not pretty much gonna be that. And I'm okay with that because I like open world games for me are very daunting. I don't like it's a lot. And there's so many,
Mhm.
that I'm like with Remake, I was just so happy that it wasn't that because it was like I knew what I had to do, and it was beautiful, and I enjoyed the gameplay. The story was awesome. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I had to travel to like all the way over this other side of the map just to get like one little side quest and then go all the way back. Like, I don't know. I just don't have the time for that stuff anymore. I appreciate the people that do and they love it and that's their thing, but I just don't think we're going to get that in part 2.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you there. As I also mentioned before, I've seen that you also wrote down like references to Hamaguchi and Toriyama's interviews, and I remember that Hamaguchi was the one I think who told the interviewee or interviewer at some point that he loves Horizon Zero Dawn. I think it was him. So it's possible that certain areas will be pretty much very open and not as straightforward and linear as we think, but not the whole game, of course.
No,
unless I misremember. Maybe you guys remember as well. I don't know.
I don't remember Horizon, but I remember them saying God of War.
Oh yeah, God of War.
That, I think.
Maybe it could be. It's that there are so many interviews they blend together at some point.
Yeah. But they did talk about like the need of having an overworld map, basically. So and how to leverage the breadth of the world to make it seem like it's very open is what they were saying. So they know that and they're working on it. And I have faith, you know. I'm open to receiving it for what it is, and I know I'm okay with it, you know, not being a crazy open worlds. That's not this game anyway, and that's not what it is. So you know, I'm okay that it's not going to be that. I'm just excited, and I am optimistic that they can do it properly. I just can't wait to see it, you know, and play it. But
yeah.
It's cool to know that they're looking at some of the games that I admire in those senses as well too, and they're taking note. You know, they're like,
yes,
these guys did really good here, so maybe we can take a little bit of that spice and put it in ours. You know. So I'm excited about that.
When I look back, it's Remake Part 1 is basically just a mix of all the good parts from the past, like the good parts from Final Fantasy 13, the stagger mechanic. Then we have the ATB from the original, but we also have like this semi-action driven battle from 15, but better. And yeah, it's like everything they've learned so far, they tried to pick out the segments or the systems that work and try to make everything fit. That's at least the impression I got, that they really tried to leverage all their good experiences from past games to make this into a masterpiece. Well, in my eyes, not quite a masterpiece yet, because as we've talked about in one of our previous episodes, it has a lot of problems still, pacing issues, graphical issues, pre-integrate, of course. But still, it's one of my favorite games, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, I always tell my daughters this, like, so they're both really into watching Disney movies, and but at the starting of every movie, like before they really get into a movie, they'll be like, "Oh, I can't watch this movie anymore. It's got like the first part of the movie. It's always like, I don't know, something bad happens to the main character, or like it's slow pacing at the beginning. But then after they finally have watched the whole movie, they're like, can we watch it again? And then they just want to watch that same movie. And I feel like we're in that moment that I'm like, you guys, like I always tell my daughters, just, you got to get over the first part of the movie. Got to really get into the story first. And I think we're right there, you know? Like, I just can't.
That happened to me with the True Blood TV series. I watched the first like 4 or 5 episodes, and I was like, I don't know. It didn't click. And then a friend of mine just told me, just keep going. It gets good. And then I continued a little bit, finished the first season, and then I kind of got hooked because I learned to love the characters, and the story was better than I expected.
And then season 2 was pretty good, and then after that, it just divulged into complete ridiculousness.
Yeah, but then I was hooked anyway. It just kept going.
I finished it, but it was ridiculous. I loved it.
Yeah.
Nice. That's true fandom right there, okay? And I feel like that's what we've got going on right now. Like we're just waiting.
Exactly.
Even
Yeah.
like I guess NSP, he was like, he's faced a little bit of backlash for his thoughts on Remake Part 1, and even him, he's going back through, he's been playing through the game again, and he's got a different perspective on it. He can appreciate things that he didn't whenever he first played through, and I mean, I don't know, I think it's really cool. I'm very excited for wherever we're going with this game, and story-wise and everything. I'm like, even the whispers, I'm like, all right, just show me where are you going with it, So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a payoff, hopefully, but I think they're setting us up for something pretty crazy.
Yeah,
and I'm here for it, and I'm open, and that's the way that I was initially when this game came out, because I just knew that it wasn't going to be an exact recreation of the original, but I also didn't want that. If I wanted that, I would play the original again.
Yeah.
And that's why I love it so much, because I was open to accepting it for what it was. And, I think that they did a really great job.
Yeah.
Certainly, yeah.
Like, even marketing and what they say in their interviews, they are doing a really good job of keeping us in, like, a suspended animation of what's happening next. Like,
yeah.
I mean, in one of the interviews that I read recently, where he was saying like we are gonna stay very true to the original story arc, and I'm like, but what about this? Like,
yeah,
like they gave me something without really giving me a lot, so I don't know. I'm excited.
Yeah, same. What it's worth, we are on for a very, very great ride. It could go either way. It could turn to crap, or it can turn into gold, or something in between. And that's the thing. The unknown journey awaits, or continues. This is for the characters, but also for us. We have no idea where it goes. They promised it will still feel like Final Fantasy VII. It will be the same story basically, but they will also divert into different things, or change certain parts, like the Honeybee Inn. The whole wall markets part was quite different. So I have hopes, but I still cannot predict what they will change and how. So this is really exciting. And even with part 1, I didn't just play a remake. I played Final Fantasy VII for the first time again. And same will happen for part 2, part 3, part 4, however many parts there will be.
Yeah. There were so many parts in Remake where I was expecting one thing to happen, and then I was pleasantly surprised and like blown away by how different and more massive the game was. I remember on stream, before you go into the Shinra Tower, I was like, well, we're almost done. Or like this, like, yeah, the whole ending chapters, I was like, oh, we're almost done. We're about there. Nope. We had like 3 whole days worth of streaming left before we got through the story. So, I mean, I don't know. I think they're doing a really good job of it so far, but
yeah.
And I guess to go back to the original question that you asked on, were you on corridors versus open areas? I really think that, like, we're probably gonna have a mix of both.
Yeah. Yeah, they just need to do that, because, as I said before, just one big open world, and you're going from place to place, and you can choose which one to go first, and to just lose yourself in the world. This is not the story of Final Fantasy VII. They're chasing Sephiroth. They're basically following a linear path with some branches in the original game. Even the Gongaga was optional. So it wasn't like just go from A to B to C like in Final Fantasy XIII, where it was actually just you're on a train and just goes where the rails take it. But it needs to be a healthy combination of both. That you have like basically a breather. You can just roam around a little bit, explore, because you don't really quite know where to go next, and you have a few ideas, but you also need to want to go there and then to the other place. But then when the story picks up, you're basically on the train again, and then you're going forward. Then the train stops at the next station. Then you can just roam around again, look what's there, explore. I think that's the pacing they need to nail. the good balance between corridors and open areas. That's my vision basically for the next part, at least.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, like, having that sense of urgency, like, we're chasing Sephiroth, we're chasing this, we're trying to get this, gotta get the huge material before Shinra does. Like, having these, like, pacing type missions and quests that we've got will, I think, allow it to drive us in that direction. We're like, all right, we just got the huge materia, and we can kind of like calm down and explore other things at the moment, and that would allow us to, I guess escape the Final Fantasy 13 downfall where it was so linear. But we've got a lot of pivotal moments, like keyframe moments, that you can change like the pace of it and get us out of that corridor feeling.
Yeah, for sure. Good things are coming. I can feel it.
Come on, September.
I just want to go to sleep and wake up, and it's like the day that we get the information.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever that is. Maybe never. No. All right, guys. So moving on here, we're talking about why the open worlds may not serve the narrative of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Vyzz, did you want to start us off with this section?
Oh, for sure. I know we already touched on that before, but
we did.
This is really a point that I that came up in many different conversations, and we have a certain narrative, we have a story, we have certain character arcs, we have the main story, we have backstory segments, we have so many things. So
flashbacks.
Flashbacks, and also side stories basically. And if you have an open world, the open world I can remember the best is Horizon Zero Dawn, and there the main story was not chase Sephiroth and now do the parade and sneak onto the ship and all those things. It's figure out what is going on here, because Aloy finds this thing in when she's a kid, and which doesn't really fit the world. I'm trying to hard to not spoil for those who haven't played it.
It's like her history though too, right? And
it's her history. She needs first. She also wants to basically know where she's coming from, because her father is, or her mentor is not her father basically. But first that, but also what's with this world, because this thing she finds in the beginning is first only she has it, and maybe a few others have, but it's not something that's everywhere. And robo dinosaurs in a basically Stone Age. What is happening here? It's basically how it came, how this world came to be. It's or basically what is happening here. That's the thing. And you can. That's this premise just lends itself to just travel the world and find other tribes and find out how they live and how things, and that your antagonists, what they are up to, and then you'll find more evidence and stories of the past and whatever. And it's really, really interesting. But here it's completely different. The pacing of the story is completely different. You have a main goal, yes, but there are so many sub goals within the journey. You can't just like throw Cloud and the others into one huge world and then just let them be. To be fair, in open world games, I don't play that many, but in Horizon Zero Dawn, you didn't have access to the whole world at first, just like maybe a fourth of the whole thing, or maybe even a fifth. But then you were able to go to the next area, and then you had basically access to maybe half or a third of the whole world. And then after a certain time, you had access to the whole thing. So it's kind of like in 3 stages. But still, the first area is very, very large in itself. So I don't think this really works well for Final Fantasy VII's story to tell it. But as I said before, like funneling the player through corridors throughout the whole part 2 again wouldn't make any sense either, because we're not in a confined city. but
Yes, exactly.
in the world outside. So we need the space to roam, to explore, to run around with chocobos, with drive around with the buggy, and find whatever you're gonna find when you're just driving around and to places where you shouldn't go, probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, it basically boils down to what I said in the very beginning of this whole segment. The gameplay and the level design should serve the story, because otherwise it probably wouldn't end up well. And the story is something to be crafted and to be consistent in itself, and then you can adapt the gameplay to it. But the other way around, you have a gameplay and try to shoehorn a story onto it. Might work in some cases, but usually it doesn't. That's why earlier games like those platformers had their focus on gameplay, and the story was just like there, but not really that much that important. The most important part of the game was to get through from level to level and beat the boss, and that was basically it. The story was more like flavor.
Yeah.
But here, the story is so important, and the characters are so important, that their interactions and their dialogue and how they develop and where they come from. And you can't shoehorn this into a certain gameplay that you want to craft. So you have the gameplay has to craft around the story, that everything fits neatly into each other. That's my opinion, at least.
Yeah. And, like, I feel like the way that you're describing Horizon kind of, it reminded me a little bit of how Final Fantasy VII was in the original, in the sense that, like, at first we were confined to a really small area, though it was really big with Midgar. Yeah. And then even though it still, you saw the open world map, you had the map out there, and you knew that there was going to be other parts, they were still inaccessible to us with like the barricades of either the river or the ocean separating us, and no real ways to get around them. And I think as long as they give us those parameters still, maybe we can see cool. It would be awesome to be able to, with the open camera view. What is that one called? The mod that floating camera or something? I can't remember what that's called. Dang it.
Just fixed camera. I don't know.
I can't remember. I know that I've seen Baby Seal do this a ton, but he will go into like the Shinra mansion and see or the Shinra Tower and see like what the mayor is doing at the time of this thing that's happening. So
it would just be free camera or something.
There it is. Yeah, free camera. I believe so. But it would be really cool to be able to see stuff throughout our away from where we're able to access right now. So like, say that we only did get to, which I really think we're going further than this, but say we only did get like to the marshlands in that cave right there or something, and it would be cool to be able to look over and across the way and be able to see like, a Tower of Wutai or something like that,
Yeah, just something in the distance, like some monument or just something we know. For example, Gold Saucer is so big. So from Costa del Sol, we should probably see like the tip of the Gold Saucer over the mountain range or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or some lights in the sky or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be so cool. But I mean, so there's definitely ways that they can still make it feel open world, but like keep us contained in a sense,
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I agree with Vyzz, your point about Horizon Zero Dawn, and it does serve the gameplay and that game, like it serves the narrative, right? Because she doesn't know who she is. She needs to find herself in the history, so she's traveling around and finding all of that. In this game, it's more we get history or background about Cloud, but most of it is in flashbacks in 7, so we're not just playing Cloud when he's young and going through what he's been through, or let loose on the open world and finding pieces of who he is from other people. It's like that does kind of happen, but it's more internal through flashbacks and inside of his mind. So I agree, like it just, the open world format I don't think really matches the narrative of this game. And there has been times when you might have games that have a great story, but just like the gameplay is shoehorned in. Like it's just the last thing that
Yeah.
they think about is the gameplay. The story is really great. And then we're like, oh God, but the gameplay is terrible. Or the opposite, where the gameplay is really good, but then the story is kind of really bad. And I feel not bad, but like it just feels like it was kind of like thought of last minute.
Yeah,
kind
just
of thing. And
slapped on.
yeah, like that's how I felt about 13. Like I really enjoyed the gameplay of 13, but a lot of the story was just given to you in data logs that you had to literally read like pages upon pages upon pages. And like I want to be shown that. I want to experience the story through the characters. Like I don't want to be reading data log and data log to get the history about why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I think that it did come out that that's actually what ended up happening was they had all of these assets, they had these characters created, but they didn't really know what to do with it. And it was in like developmental hell for a while, 13, the first one. And then they just kind of threw a story together and then, you know, added it on. And I still, you know, I know what happened in that story, but it took me a long time to figure it out from reading online and, you know, and it shouldn't be that difficult to figure out what's happening.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening with this game. I feel like with the balance there, with the open world aspects, like bigger areas and kind of like discover different things and different areas, giving you the independence and freedom to do that, I think is important. But then not going and just letting us go loose and over the whole world map right at the beginning of the game. It just doesn't make any sense with the story that they're trying to tell. And from what we can see, it's a very narratively focused game. That's the type of experience it is right now for me. Like they really are pushing the story.
Yes, definitely. I think the main problem with 13 was they had so much planned with this the Nova Chrysalis. How's it called again? Fabiola Nova Chrysalis, exactly. And even planned like FF versus 13 and 13 Agito, which turned into Type 0.
Exactly.
And I think they just took the bitten off so much more than they could choose. They had to scrap so many things for the first 13. Yeah, exactly. Scrap so much. That's probably why there's a data log and all the lore that we don't get to experience in game because they couldn't produce it. It's there so that we can at least get a glimpse of what everything is about. And then they had all those assets and plans and stuff. And then 13.2 and Lightning Returns happened through that.
Which were improvements on the original. Like I did like the original, but still, like when it was over, I was like, I would breathe like a sigh of relief that it was just over, you know, like it was over. And I was like, okay, I can be done with this now, you know? I did enjoy it, and I will defend the gameplay, the music I did enjoy, certain aspects of the characters I really did enjoy, but the story for me was just very hard to understand. And I don't, like, we're not going to get that with this. This is not like that source material, you know what I mean? So I really am excited. I think that they're going to really do it justice. And from what we've read from, you know, developer comments about it, then it sounds like they understand that.
Yes.
And people are going to be disappointed anyway. You're not going to get what you dream and hope for. You just have to be open to receiving it. Like, there's no way that they're going to please everyone. People are going to be mad.
Never.
But I feel like people are going to be even more mad if we don't have some form of exploration or open world of some aspect. People are going to lose it. I think they have to give us something.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And I think it was the best thing they could do with this not really episodic but multi-part release. Because creating or remaking Final Fantasy VII in one game, then you'd end up with Final Fantasy 13 all over again.
Yes. Oh my god! And people still complain about that.
Yeah,
I need to like get off the forums and the groups, man, because people are still complaining, and I'm like, guys, just the game. Like when it was released for PC, people were like, it's not even a full game, it's not even the whole story, and I have to pay like $89.99, like blah, blah, like, or $79 or whatever it is in the United States, because I'm in Canada, so everything's more expensive. Everything's like $14 more expensive here. Well, depending on how much it is, it's a percentage, but still, like everybody was losing their minds. I'm like, guys, it is a full game. Like, what are you talking about? Obviously, you haven't played it.
It's a 40-hour game.
Yeah, like what are you talking about? And other games are not this substantial that are still have full price tags.
Yeah.
People also do not get upset at Nintendo for re-releasing the same game on every single platform, and you have to pay full price multiple times
Yeah.
for Nintendo games. They never go on sale. They never go on sale, and every time they have a Switch version or they have a Wii U version or whatever re-release, you still have to pay full price for it. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Truth.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nintendo is its own thing for sure.
Mm-hmm. You know, I streamed. I went through a long time where I was trying to find 13 because everywhere I was going, I was getting like roadblocks. I was trying to find it on the PlayStation Network. I was trying to find it on all these different things, and everywhere I was looking, it just kept on saying Final Fantasy 13. If you Google it, it will say indefinitely was the worst game of the Final Fantasy franchise. I'm like, I remember liking it as a kid. Like, whenever I played through it originally. So when I streamed it, I heard all those comments, dude. Every single person that came in the chat would either be like, dude, I love this game. And I clickbaited the title for sure. I was like, is this really the worst Final Fantasy? But man, I had all those comments in the chat for a solid month while we were going through the saga. But I agree. I feel like they didn't give us as much of the story in actual like visuals. We had to read through a lot.
No.
But I think that's something that Final Fantasy VII, even the original, did a really good job of not doing that to us. Because like whenever we're in the what's the name of that place where the Icicle Inn, I guess, but like yeah, we're seeing all those flashbacks. That was awesome. We didn't have to read
the
through
tapes,
any of that. We got it was so cool. And I think so I feel like that's something that would this game in particular, the creators, I don't think that they're going to give us that. Hopefully. Maybe we will have to read some stuff, but hopefully most of it will be either flashbacks or tapes or something.
Yeah. No, it seems more cinematic, like
yeah.
that they're going for. More like blockbuster, like cinematic visuals and cutscenes. And we didn't even really get that many CGI cutscenes that were actually just full-fledged CGI. Everything was in-game in the engine, right? So...
Well, it already looks it looks great in itself, so
exactly. And oh my god, playing Ghost of Tsushima like on PS5, even though it just came out on PS4, and yes, it's the director's cut. So, but like, it looks so good that I'm like, oh my god, like I'm so excited for Remake Part 2, and I hope that they do really just use the full power of the system.
Yeah,
you know, and not like dumb it down or make it look worse because they have to put it on PS4. Like I want them. I'm sorry. Like I feel bad for PS4 people that can't get a PS5, but like by the time this game comes out, you should be able to get a PS5, right? Like it's
hopefully
probably another year,
fingers crossed,
2 years
for sure.
before we get it. You know, I just know that it's going to be so good. And too with Forbidden West, like I've seen some screenshots. I don't have it. I haven't seen it yet, but it looks so good. I'm
looks stunning.
Oh my god. Like, this game is going to look so good.
Like, just the scale of that game alone gives me hope for how big that we could be expecting Part 2 to be. But, yeah.
But it's a Japanese developer. It's not like a first-party, like, Sony developer. That's the thing for me. It's like, it's not going to be probably as, like, big as that, but we'll see.
Yeah. Very true.
All right, so moving on here, we're talking about keeping the feeling of a huge planet. So, and also this includes the overworld map. So we did talk about this a little bit earlier. I said that, you know, there's some ideas that people have for, you know, being able to kind of have this, or there's a debate also, like, do we need it, you know? I think that at the time, like, the world map for now could possibly be like looking at the map, like instead of having overworld where we're walking, I don't think it's going to be like that, but it would be cool if they had like the overworld map as the actual map, and maybe like little characters of us like moving instead of like a pointer or an icon or something like that, to kind of like bring it back, call back to the original where we had like the overworld map. And potentially having like the fast travel there as well. So if we want to fast travel to a part, we can. And maybe it shows us like walking on the globe. It's like a globe. Like the map is a globe, and then it zooms in, and then it shows us. If we fast travel, it'll just do like a little cutscene of us like as a character walking over there. You know what I mean? Instead of just fade to black, fade up, and then we're there,
Yeah.
which is what happens in Ghost of Tsushima. Like, you just click and it goes black, and it loads so fast, right? So it's like, I'm sure they don't want to have, if we're walking from, like the crater to, I don't know, like Midgard, like it's just gonna slowly show us like walking across for like 5 minutes or something. Like, not that, but something to kind of call back to that, because I don't think that really the overworld map is needed, and I don't think we're gonna see it because they want this like a third person big, like, set pieces, and the camera is behind you. Like, I just don't see that happening. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think that I've been thinking about this. There's a game, I cannot remember for the life of me what the game was, but there was a fast travel option that you could do that it would be like, it gave you the experience points, and it gave you like, your people would probably get, like, it would still do the battle system, essentially. It would give you like so and so gain like 1,000 XP in between here and there, or something like that. And there was an option that you could do that. Can't remember what that game was, but that would be interesting. I mean, like, because like, obviously if you went from the crater to Midgard, there's obviously going to be, unless you had the plane or something like that, there's going to be some battles happening in between there. So it'd be cool to see what they do to kind of compensate for that.
Well, we would have the high wind by then too, right?
Oh yeah,
if that's like
true.
the next part. So maybe they show that instead.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And I think that I think it'd be cool if they did have an overworld map, just like a throwback or something like that you could turn on and off, like a hub kind of thing, where you could just select that, yes, you do want it in the top right corner or something along those lines, but actually have like a legit detailed map that you could change through as well. That would be really cool, and just have for, parts, especially like specifically in the parts that we're going from Calm to the Chocobo Ranch. Like, if they do really put a lot more detail into it, if they have a lot, like the mountains that we're gonna have to see on either side, the valley that we're gonna be running through there, like, if they're gonna really flush those areas out and have a lot of detail to it, it would be cool if we did have a little map that we could put little things on and be like, oh, there's this cool thing that you can find in this area.
What do you think, Vyzz?
Yeah, so sounds good. I was just thinking, like, instead of pulling up like a schematic map, like in the first part, this blue thing with outlines, bright outlines. Why not pull up basically Google Maps, like Google Map version of or the Final Fantasy VII version of Google Maps? Like, you just it switches to like this map overview, and this, you see, oh, you're here, but you can zoom out and zoom in,
and you see the planet. Or
yeah,
something?
that would be so cool.
Like
basically
Google Earth.
Yeah, kind of like that. In Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West does that. When you go to the map, you have like this quasi 3D representation, bird's eye view, of top view. That's from cool. High above, and you see like the roads that go through everywhere, and you see where settlements are. Something like that I can see. Maybe that'd even with cool. Kind of an art style similar to the original, but of course much more detailed. I could see this, but only to see where you are and where you've been, and maybe where you haven't been, there's a fog of war, or it's just blurry, or just some kind of coverage of covering that you don't see what's there. It would be pretty cool, I guess. But not actually playing Godzilla and stomping on across the field. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't see that happening.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, but what I can see happening, and I think we already talked about this in maybe last or even 2 years ago, how they could handle the high wind. My imagination is that when you enter the high wind, it basically zooms out from where you are, zoom out, and then you are on this overworld map with the high wind, and you see far down all the locations and the mountain ranges and the rivers and the forests, but very small. kind of like in proportions of the original overworld. And then you fly across this. You can see where you can land. Like it button pops up when you can land. Even if you can't, you can't. But if you when you can land, you land, and then it zooms you in again. Like basically the same as in the original, but it zooms in. And since PS5 can load so fast, it can load in this the zone underneath, and then you're in there. And the camera zooms around or moves around the high wind, and you see the your active party just walking out of the high wind at the bottom, and the high wind is just there, right there on the zone, in the zone map in the area, and then you can run around, do your thing, and maybe through menu you can just say return to high wind, and you're there, or you can walk back and just walk up the ramp again, and it closes, and the camera turns around so that it's at top of the high wind, and then it zooms out again, and then you're on this high wind overworld and can fly across the thing. And that's basically how I imagine the high wind could work. Very similar mechanically to the original, but with modern mechanics and with PS5's fast loading times between this overworld globe, basically, and the individual zones.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I wrote this under handling vehicles, but in 15 they did have the regalia, whatever you want to call it, and it did have verticality. So they did ended up adding that after, where it could fly, and then when you do fly it, it does zoom out. But cool. You can only fly it so high, right? So you don't see it being kind of like that, where it's like you actually can fly it and it's just kind of floating, like not super zoomed out. You know what I mean?
But then you have to basically model the whole planet. Like actually model everything, and you could run through everything. That's how 15 worked. But I imagine it really zoom out so far that you're, as you said before, Google Earth.
Cool.
Maybe not the whole sphere, but outwards enough that you don't really see where you were. You see still, okay, there's a mountain, there are forests, and maybe there's a river, but it's too far away that you don't really see like chocobos running around or stuff like that, or enemies. That's how I imagine it.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that, honestly, because landing that car.
It was.
I could not successfully land that car, man. I murdered everybody every single time. I murdered them. Like, I could not land that thing. I never flew it because I just could not land it. And it's automatic game over.
Yeah, I managed a few times, but sometimes I just maybe brushed one of those lightning poles or whatever, or maybe a branch of a tree, just slightly, and then it just veered off into the distance, and it's game over.
I did it once to get to the Pitias ruins.
Oh, right. Yeah, I
like
did that too.
That was the only time that I actually successfully landed it.
That's the hardest
land. Really bad at controlling it. So.
Yeah.
But that would be really cool if it zooms out and it's like a planet. And then when Meteor is summoned, maybe they will actually show like the meteor, like
for sure,
towards the planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree.
All right. So the next part here is differences between individual parts. So Vyzz, did you want to start us off with this?
Yes. This kind of harkens back to my original video, like the first one I did on Final Fantasy VII Remake. Even Square Enix told us that, or I think it was Kitase-san that told us that each part will feel unique, kind of like that. I don't remember the exact words, but this to me says each part has its own, like maybe feature, or like their own uniqueness and own elements that's unique to this specific part that it can present itself with. Like part one is Midgar. It's just this huge metropolis, and you have the slums and the upper plates, and it's just this huge city, and you can roam around some of it. Unfortunately, not everything, but some of it. And it's one story confined within this huge city. And then part two is basically roam around the world, but not like everywhere. But as we talked about before, it's more like guided. guided towards, let's say, Nibelheim, if it ends there, and even afterwards. But that's why I say it should end at Nibelheim, because then we have this kind of guided way until Nibelheim, and in between we have the buggy also to just drive around a little bit. This is one of the main features. Oh, we have a buggy we can drive around. We have bigger zones we can traverse, and we have chocobos. And then between Nibelheim and the Whirlwind Maze at the Northern Crater, we have the what's it called again? The Tiny Bronco, which hopefully still makes it in and will control completely differently. And this is also something I'm still quite not sure how they should actually create the traversal with the Tiny Bronco. If we're actually on the plane just roam around, then it's the problem of size and scale again. But if then we need to zoom out, kind of like explained before with the high wind. But then the Tiny Bronco is too tiny, so we basically have then maybe a logo or some sort of icon, a representation of it, which just roams around the body of waters. I don't quite know how they should do this, but it's certainly completely different to the buggy. So it's a new way of exploring the planet, because we can then traverse most of the planet, only through shallow water, of course, but still. And then in the last part, we have the rest of the vehicles, namely the Highwind and the submarine, which is also a completely different way of traversal. And finally, as I hope, truly open world. Like we start part 4 with the execution of Junon, and then we get the Highwind. Then we have the whole planet on our feet. We can basically explore everything. Some parts probably don't have much, just a few NPCs that talk about something, but maybe no side quests and stuff. But especially later when we're approaching the segment of the huge materia, or the ultimate materia, however they will call it, I can see them then including a few different segments, or that we can choose where to go. Maybe it's even not tied to Cloud finding himself first, although I really hope, because I want to run around with Tifa, I want to run around with Sid. Do those things. I think this is pretty important. But afterwards, you can go to Wutai. You can maybe make certain locations or villages or small cities independent of Shinra, like in Fort Condor. Fight off Shinras to make him help stay independent or something like that. Just diminish Shinra's control over the planet, something like that. Like certain optional side quests to make Shinra's reach, to lessen Shinra's reach and Shinra's control over the planet, and maybe there's a additional final quest or an additional cutscene at some point. I don't know, just something that makes it worthwhile to explore the whole thing, and that we're not only going through the motions of mandatory quests after mandatory quests, but actually can find and explore and find everything that the planet has to offer. Maybe even half of it is optional, like the Chocobo Sage, for example.
Yeah.
And the materia caves and all those things. So that's what I mean. But the differences between individual parts: confined city, then guided traversal, guided journey through parts of the world, then exploring most of the whole planet, but still confined to shallow waters and certain continents. Then the fourth part is like completely open world, like in stages. It opens up in stages. That's kind of how I see this going.
Yeah. So you were saying that was it Katasi who said that in the interview, that each part would have its own.
That each part will feel unique. Or I should have pulled up the quote, because I can't remember it, because it was back then when they initially revealed that it will be released in multiple parts. So at the end of 2015. So this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
years ago.
I kind of took that in two different ways. So like at first I was taking it in as far as each area, like Junon versus Calm, the slums versus the upper plate, they all feel unique and they all have their own song themes and they look completely different. I mean, even looking at like the slums and upper plate, but what you're saying makes a lot more sense. And I guess my main thing on that, kind of going back to what we talked about before though, it really, I just wonder how part 4 is going to cohesively, because I don't think we've ever had a game that's done this, where you have these different areas that you can go through, and then at the end, it's a culmination of all of them. It's like so I wonder how they're going to do that, just storage wise in the game, and like said,
that's true.
that might be, they might have a good workaround with that since they've already got everything built. Maybe they can kind of like give us not as much NPC related stuff, maybe because by the time we get to Highwind, I think the meteors start. Well, by the time the Highwind really opens up, meteors kind of coming, and so everybody's like, the sky's falling. So
exactly,
you could really kind of like, sum up most of the NPC voiceover stuff with just a lot of people talking about that, or they could even close off a lot of the houses because they're afraid of the world.
Scared, yeah.
Exactly. So they could close off some stuff, but open up everything. So that might be how they get away with it. That's the only thing that I'm concerned about. Whenever he says every part's going to be different, is the ending going to be the culmination of all those parts? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. He's sometimes a little bit cryptic.
Yeah, I know. Man, they're so good at it, though. They're like, what other story have you heard of that has given us this little information but kept us this much on the edge of our seat? Like,
very
exactly.
true.
Yeah, and it honestly, I hope that this story is finished by the time the PS5 is its life cycle is over, because I don't even know if we're gonna make it.
I know. I was gonna say, I hope.
We're gonna have to buy a new console to play like part 4 or part 3.
I hope not.
Like honestly, it came out a year and 3 months ago. I think, right? November 12th, 2020. It hasn't been 2 years yet, but it's gonna be like 2.5 years that this console's been out before we get part 2.
Yeah.
Like, let alone part 3. And this console's not gonna live for 10 years like the PS3 did.
Yeah.
They're going to have maybe like a PS5 Pro, maybe, I'm sure. They'll probably continue with that where they upgrade it a bit. But I don't know.
I'm just hoping they release it all before I'm outdated and I'm in like freaking nursing home or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Part 4 is coming right around the corner. Hold out, heart. We got this.
It's like this meme with a skeleton sitting on the bench waiting for Final Fantasy VII Remake. Or
to
part
complete,
4. Or
yeah,
something.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
As for the different, individual parts, for me, the comment is more, I think, the theme of the overall game. And for me, like the last part for me is the most like dark and dreary and just kind of horror genre, where I hope that they just really go for it, like just the dark aspect of it and the sadness and just, like the bleakness of everything. But I guess we'll see. But I think the second part is more the opposite of that. Like the second part is more like they're out in the open. Hopefully it's going to be sunny. I think we're still going to have dark aspects, especially to like the Shinra Mansion is quite dark and like evil, and then that sort of thing. I think they can really dive into that, but it's kind of like the opposite of the last part, right? Where the story is more like hopeful and Aerith seeing like the sky for the first time and being outside, and just like it's more happy, I feel. Even though it's disturbing at the same time, but I think that's, for me, that's how I interpreted his comment, was like each part is more like it has its own kind of theme and like style to it.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I think it's multi-layered. It's as you said, part 2 is mostly let's say upbeat or hopeful.
Yeah.
It has its downsides, like the spiked Impaled Midgar Solemn. This is, let's say, a more rather dark moment than the whole part of Nibelheim, the Shinra Mansion, as you mentioned. But if part 2 ends there, this is basically the end, which makes sense to end it on this pretty dark note. But then it lights up a little again with Rocket Town, which is basically a whole joke with the whole Palmer segment and what have you.
Exactly. And Casa del Sol is like bright and sunny, even though it is dark. Like it takes the turn, you know. But
yeah, a little. But still, I know what you mean. It's like the baseline is more upbeat and hopeful in part 2 until Nibelheim. Afterwards, it's better again. But then we're at the Gold Saucer. And then the betrayal of Kechi, and then
and Diane as well. If they show that flashback,
right, that's true. That's true. Yeah,
pretty dark.
Yeah, that's a dark one in between. Yeah, in between sunny side or sunny beach and Cosmo Canyon. That's where the story really shines. I hope, like the lore, the live stream. Yeah, it's so like versatile. And diverse, this whole world. There's so many aspects: dark, light, disturbing, upbeat, funny, sad. It has everything.
It reminds me a little bit of like Harry Potter, because the series ended and it was very dark.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it gets so dark.
Yeah, but at the beginning it was more. They still had like issues and like, you know, there were enemies and stuff, but it was like kind of turned completely dark by the end. So.
Yeah. And if my prediction turns out partially correct, then the end of the remake series will be very, very dark.
Dun, dun, dun.
With a little bit of hope at the very end, but still, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we did touch on handling vehicles a little bit already. So just really quickly, I did say that I hope that we can take control of the vehicles at some point. Like, I hope that they give us that, and it's not just a cutscene of us like getting in and then fade to black, and then like you're there at the destination, which was kind of like what it was like in Remake, because we had the chocobos, but it was like you got on the chocobo and then the music played, and then it just like, brought you there. Which is fine, because we didn't have access to chocobos that early in the story. We didn't have them in Midgar, right? So like I understand. But I hope that they do give us the ability to control the chocobos and, you know, the tiny bronco, just all the vehicles, hopefully.
Yes.
But if not, then maybe it's made in a way that it doesn't feel like restricting, or they're taking something away from us. Like that's the hardest thing, is for them to like not have us feel like they've taken stuff away because the original has it and this doesn't. You know, it's like we're being punished because they couldn't figure out a way to do it. So I hope they can do it, but I have faith.
But if the material Ultimania and the Ultimania are anything to go by, is they really went far beyond in certain aspects to really make things work, because all those comments sometimes, it took us months to figure this out, but then we finally got it to work and stuff. There are a lot of comments like this, and it really seems like they give it their all to make their vision work. And Nomura-san has a big vision. I can feel it. And he's still the creative director. Or creative director or creative?
Yes, he is.
I think it's called creative director, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I will say, like, the way I loved personally how the vehicles, all of them, maneuvered in 7. I mean, there was obviously some glitchy stuff, like whenever you're trying to like traverse through Cosmo Canyon's areas with a buggy. That's kind of rough.
Oh, right, yeah.
And there were some glitchy things that happened, but I feel like how simplistic it was, it worked really well for what they were trying to make it do. And in contrast, in a stark contrast, is in Final Fantasy VII First Soldier. Could just be because it's a mobile game, but how you can use the motorcycles and the actual like the trucks, it's rough, man. So I'm really hoping that they can find a really solid way. I know that it's a lot more like taxing on graphics, the engines and everything like that to really to go through these open world areas, but if we can use them, if we can use the chocobos and running through areas, I hope it's not glitchy. Because I feel like the original one did a good job of like allowing us to do what we wanted to do.
Well, regarding chocobos, I have high hopes because in 15, riding around with chocobo was very fun. I mean, I must say.
And they did a good job with it.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true.
And the Regalia Type D with the monster truck version was also pretty fun.
Oh yeah,
yeah, they did a good job.
It's basically the buggy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gosh,
exactly.
Yes, there you go. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, although the buggy has 8 wheels, I think.
I never, so I went through 15 whenever it first came out, and I never did the upgrade where you can make the car fly, and I want to do it so bad now, so I'm probably going to go through and replay that game just to get the...
I think you could fly the Regalia in the vanilla version, but you had to return to the main area from Altissia back to how's the main continent called again? I forget.
Somnia.
No, Insomnia is just the city where he comes from, but the whole continent where he can traverse the big thing. Anyway, you had to go back there basically, and then I think do one side quest for Cindy.
Yeah,
and
you
then
get some kind of part.
Yeah, exactly. And then she modified it for you, and then you could just switch between Regalia Type F or the normal one and fly away. But it's basically optional and only useful for getting to Pitios. Otherwise, it's just for fun. And that's missed opportunity, because I think they could have done a little bit more with Regalia. Maybe 2 or 3 more areas only accessible by it. And please, no game over screen. And also let us fly over the cities. There were so many areas you couldn't fly over. It just veered you off where you wanted to go. It felt so unnatural.
Yeah, they weren't even going to give it to us, though, in the original. I don't even think they were going to. But then people were complaining or asking for it, that they decided to put it in.
Yeah.
And then they had reached out to their Just Cause 4 team because they had no verticality. And that team helped them develop the verticality in order to actually, like, pad the flying.
That's true. I forgot about that, yeah.
Which was being developed by Square Enix, right? Just Cause, I think?
Just Cause, it's by Avalanche Studios, however it's called, but published by Square Enix. So they had contacts.
But I hope that if they need help, like, figuring it out, that they do kind of, communicate with probably another developer that has experience, even though it's not the same engine. It's not the Luminous engine. It's Unreal, which I mean even increases their chances, I think, of actually being able to do it.
Yeah, there are so many other teams who've already done it.
Exactly. It's not like they're like stuck with this engine that they themselves developed and nobody else knows, and they're like trying to figure out like how.
And I wonder this too, really quick. So, I know you had said earlier about like the tiny Bronco and how like just the size of it really wouldn't work, and you're wondering kind of how that might manifest itself in the newer part 2 or part 3. But like, PHS was like a really big thing in the game, and the way that they re-envisioned that, and it's even in the First Soldier now, it's really unique. It still kind of pays like it's a throwback to it, and I'm wondering if they could do something similar with the tiny Bronco, because I'm pretty sure that's the unsung hero of Final Fantasy VII.
How is the PHS handled in First Soldier?
In First Soldier, it's actually, if you're doing team battles, it will allow you to like buy your teammate it resurrects your teammate. So there's like this huge, it looks exactly like the one in Remake. It's just slimmed down, and but you can if you have enough gil from killing other NPCs or other characters, you can actually revive your teammate. So, but I'm kind of wondering, like they completely changed it while at the same time like giving some props to the old way of using it. So I'm wondering if there's a way that they're going to be able to do that with Tiny Bronco in this, like.
The scale of the whole planet and level design, that's the only thing I'm worried about, because if you're actually sitting on the tiny Bronco and steering it around, kind of like the buggy, then you need to traverse the world itself, and then the world needs to feel like it's a planet. But then you have like you're like floating around for like 10-20 minutes, and you're basically not even halfway there. So that's why they probably need to create something in between, like a kind of zoomed out version, but then a Tiny Bronco is so tiny.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's called Tiny Bronco, probably. But yeah, it's just this it doesn't really feel right. With the high wind, I at least have confidence in that my my suggestion could work. With the Tiny Bronco, it's still like I don't know.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see if they're going to keep it, and if they do, what are they going to do with it? I just imagine we're going to have clouds with the legs dangling off the wings, and they're just floating through the ocean.
Yeah, maybe it is that there are just two modes. Like you can float around like that, where you zoomed in, you see everything and the characters and stuff, but you basically can't get anywhere. It's more like maybe for short distances, or to get on land or get off land again. But then when you actually want to traverse the world, you have to zoom out. And then you maybe see just this an arrow with an icon or something, or you can see, okay, I can go through there. Or maybe they create some sort of mini game out of it, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Or the cheap version, just a like a map, where you see, okay, I can go there and there and there from where I am now. Press it, and then maybe it floats there in a few seconds, and then it changes again. It's more like a more elaborate version of Final Fantasy X's fast travel system. Like you have only the map, and you can select where you want to go, but maybe a little more dynamic. I don't know, but that would still feel cheap a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little limited.
Yeah.
Hard to say.
Maybe we'll be able to control them, and they don't have like the small map version. It's just that we can control them. You know what I mean? Just the Tiny Bronco, the buggy, the chocobo, and then when we have the high wind, it's when it'll zoom out and show us the planet, and we can kind of do that maybe. Because that'll be part 3, right? When we get the high wind, which gives them more time to figure it out.
Yeah, it depends when part 2 ends. Yeah, but
yeah. But I can see them like not giving us that, you know, because they're like, oh God, we got to figure out how we're going to do that. Okay, let's not do that right now.
Yeah.
So they have more time.
Yeah.
And maybe by then the PS6 will be out. They'll be like, hey, we can fly anywhere.
Yeah.
We can have a whole universe.
Yeah, like 1 terabyte.
We can zoom out and you can see the galaxy.
Yeah. See the galaxy and then see the whole cosmic life stream where every life is going, exactly. And the promised land is there in the far galaxy away. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
We see every single universe that ever existed in all of the Final Fantasies just floating in the black, like dark.
Oh, Final Fantasy 1 is there. Oh, 6 is over there.
Yeah, you want to play those? Okay, click it, and then you zoom in and you just play Final Fantasy 1.
But the old pixel version.
Yes, but within Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah.
So meta.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's a VR simulation, actually.
That'd be beautiful.
Yeah,
it's a game within a game within a game.
Well, you laugh, but Chadley has this whole VR shtick going on, so maybe we are in VR all the time.
The whole time.
Yeah, we've been in VR, and the first Soldier is also VR. So,
It's all making sense. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We're all within an experiment, and Chadley is the one who experimenting on us.
Yeah, the story is actually about Chadley the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the main character.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, that concludes this episode. I just want to say thank you so much to you, JohnReavesLive, for joining us for today's episode. It was great to sit down with you and chat all things Final Fantasy VII Remake and Remake Part 2. I hope that you enjoyed yourself while you were here.
Definitely, man. Thank you guys both so much for having me on. I've had a blast being able to talk about all this, and I'm honored to be on here, man.
My pleasure. You're welcome.
Yes, and obviously, once we get more information about Part 2 and potentially when it comes out, you can come back, and then we can talk about all the things that we were right and wrong about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
All right, guys. So if you have any ideas for our next episodes, you can write us. Our email is thereunionpodcast@gmail.com, thereunionpodcast@gmail.com. We do have a Discord server. You can join our Discord server by clicking the link in every description of each of the episodes, and you will be joined right away. And who would not want to do that? Because, yeah, you want to continue the conversation about Final Fantasy VII Remake with us. We do have a Twitter account. It's at reunion_podcast. Our Facebook is Reunion Podcast. And our YouTube channel is The Reunion Podcast. Don't forget to like, sub, and share the podcast with your friends and family and everybody. If you want, you can write us a review. It really does help us, and it's the best way to support us. Vyzz, did you want to go ahead and drop your socials for Cosmo Canyon Observatory?
Gladly. The main platform, of course, is my YouTube channel, where you can find all the deep analyses and theory crafting. I'm about to drop the complete version of Game Analysis episode 26, which will be over 4.5 hours. Like it's the last 10 episodes mashed together into one. It's very big, so you want not to miss out on that. Of course, it's called Cosmo Canyon Observatory, and on the YouTube page and in every description of every in the description of every video, you have the link to our Discord server, where we talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake, Original, and anything else basically. On a Discord server, and we also have a Twitter account. It's at cc_observatory. And lately I wasn't able to post much, but sometimes I keep posting little analysis gems, so-called CCO gems. I always post or add the hashtag CCO gems to them. It's basically a collection of all the little things I find in the game, or just basically anything I just can come up with and can see. Just little smidgets of analyses.
Absolutely. And JohnReavesLive, did you want to go ahead and tell our listeners where they can check you out?
Yeah, for sure. I am everywhere, like Twitter. I even use Facebook some. Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch, and also GG's.tv. All of those are JohnReavesLive, and Reeves is like leaves, but with an R, so it's REAVES. And yeah, I stream Monday through Friday on Twitch, and I've been posting a ton of YouTube videos on like content like Stranger of Paradise coming out, and Elden Ring.
Nice.
So I'm really excited about all those. Really trying to grow that channel, and yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Well, once again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, I'm sure, to be here with us today, and I wish you all the best.
Hey, thank you guys so much, man.
Was a blast. Take care, everybody.
Bye.